So this is Monday, January 9th, 2023, 6:30 p.m., the start of Norton Conservation Commission regularly scheduled meeting. It is now 6:31. As is required, because this is a remote meeting conducted over Zoom, we need to read a preamble that discusses suspending certain requirements of the open meeting law, and I will do that now. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, paragraph 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest end. General guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. And we will go over that during the hearings as well. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Norton Cable website, which is https://www.nortonmediacenter, all one word, .org, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So I am Julian Kadish. I'm chair. Other members of the commission are Lisa Carosa, vice chair, Ron O'Reilly, Mark Fernandez, Tom Vest, and I think that completes everybody that is here.
Oh, Julian? Commission.
Yes.
Julian, it's Dan. I'm here.
Like
I've been here since half past.
Okay,
sorry.
so we also have Dan Pearson participating, another member of the commission. We have our conservation. Okay, great. We have John Thomas, our director, and Megan Harrop, our assistant. So our first item of business is new hearing determination number 1130, request for determination concerning 353 and 355 Old Colony Road. Do we have a representative of the applicant for that project?
Yes, sir. My name is Walter Hermano.
All right, Walter, why don't you give us a summary of the project?
All right. First of all,
I don't know if you have a plan to share, but I'm assuming...
Walter, you have screen sharing capabilities, so if you'd like to share your screen, you're more than able to. If you need me to, I can share the plan as well.
All right, Ron. Let me see if I got it here.
And while you're doing that, I think I missed introducing Tama Vest, because I see her there. She's also participating tonight as a member of the commission. And Mark Fernandez. Did I mention you? All right. This is a problem when everybody's scattered all over my screen.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the plan?
Not quite yet.
How about now?
We do now.
All right, great. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. My name is Walter Hermano. I'm a professional engineer. Tonight I'm helping out Frank Weidman. He couldn't be here. He wanted to, but he had something come up under an emergency situation. I'm representing LS Plain Street LLC for 355 and 353 Old Colony Road. Frank has submitted a request for determination of applicability. He's requested that because we feel the project has limited impacts within the 100-foot buffer to the delineated vegetated wetlands, which are across Route 123. The impacts are within an area that's already pre-developed and pre-disturbed, and the impacts would be the construction of and repair of the existing drive. Some asphalt would be in addition to that, but it's slightly off of the 100-foot buffer and beyond. We have a culvert down here, which is a low point on the property, so ultimately all stormwater on the project will go down through that area. There's some stormwater that's retained on site as required. But overall, the impacts are going to be reduced peak rate and volume, and we're meeting the TSS and the total phosphate standards of the bylaw as well. This area will be improved. You can see on the screen, it's right around the culvert. There's an existing drain pipe that follows within the layout of 123. We're going to improve that with a new pipe. Right where my pointer is, we have a storm scepter. That's part of our BMPs in order to reduce the total suspended solids. We have also on the project other BMPs, which are underground infiltration that you can see right here. I won't reduce the screen. You might not be able to see it too well, but we have, which is off screen, an open infiltration basin. The amount of pavement we're capturing, the required amount of flow off of at least, I think it's 70–80% of the impervious surfaces for the project. The entire buildings, both buildings that are proposed, the entire roof runoff is going to be infiltrated on the premises. So right now the existing lot is bare and it's just runoff over open gravel and dirt. This culvert has been choked out and cleaned out through the years, but the invert is so low that it gets choked out very quickly. And we're going to improve that situation right in here and hold back the slope with riprap. So hopefully in the future, the invert, the pipe doesn't get more than half full with any sediment. It shouldn't even approach that if done correctly. But for all those reasons, that's why we're submitting for, and hopefully we can achieve a negative determination of applicability if the board so wishes. Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry, Walter,
So
can
any
you
que-
zoom out and give us context of where we are in the world, Waldo? I have no idea where this is. We're so far zoomed in. Where are we? Where are we on 123?
So this
We're on
is,
123.
and it's just beyond the north and south Worcester Street intersection heading toward Attleboro. You go over the hill and it's to your right.
Oh, where the buses are parked?
Where the buses were parked, yes, this is the lot where the buses were parked.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now then-
And just so the commission understands, for context, this project is being peer reviewed by the planning board, and they have contracted with a stormwater consultant to peer review this project for the planning board. And they have actively submitted a stormwater permit to the Stormwater Authority, which I will be reviewing, but I'm just waiting to get the final consensus from the peer review consultant before that permit's issued.
We have not been before a planning board yet. Thank you, Ron. And like Ron said, has explained the full stormwater management report that we submitted, that is going to be reviewed under the purview through site plan approval with the planning board.
But John, just for clarification, we can close based on this plan since we're not doing the primary stormwater review here. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, all the onus would be on the applicant going through the planning board to make sure they're in compliance with the stormwater regulations.
Okay.
Well, you might just want to keep it open. If the planning board process and peer review process results in comments that end up revising the site plan, I would suggest leaving it open so you don't have to come back to us. But it's up to you.
Well, as a comment to the applicant's representative, it really wouldn't matter if it stays open since you can't proceed with the project until the planning board signs off anyway. Is that so? Would the representative of the applicant be concerned if we just held in abeyance for a little bit?
You bring up a good point, Chairman. We're not going to be able to proceed with this unless the planning board does issue approval for the project.
And I'm also, I'm not
Excuse me.
speaking for the whole commission here by any means, but you know, from my perspective, our involvement is limited and I'm satisfied with what you have presented. So there really wouldn't be any obstruction to just doing a negative determination at the time that your review by planning board is complete. So I don't think it would really hold up anything.
So could you explain my options again, please?
So you can elect to close the hearing and we would issue appropriately, or you could continue it, get through the planning board process. In case there are any updates to the site plan, you could capture them and then we'd have the latest plan on file. You wouldn't have to come back to us. That's all. You're just keeping the hearings open in parallel, which is commonly done until you can flesh out all the issues and make sure that the site plan's locked down. So you don't have to go back to any of the boards. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Carosa, for that explanation. I believe we do wish to continue because before the planning board, we will have some changes to this plan. There will be no greater impacts to the BVD and the buffer. It would actually be a reduced impact. In any event, we would like to keep that open. Therefore, we have that option, so we don't have to go through the process of opening up a meeting again. Thank you.
All right, so any further questions from members of the commission? And if not, any questions from members of the audience? And if you go to the reactions button and click it, you can see the raise hand option. Although we're a little bit informal here, so you can actually just take your mic off mute and ask your question as long as you identify yourself. So,
was it, I think I had a quick question. I was looking at that storm, this may not be in our purview, but I thought I had looked at the storm water management and I thought it said it was done in development with Easton's. Yeah, it says the town of Easton stormwater regulations on the objective on page 3.
I'm guessing that's an oversight.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
all right.
A find and replace can easily fix that.
Okay,
My apologies.
no worries. I just wanted to make sure.
you wanted to make sure Easton hadn't held a revolution somewhere?
And you just never know.
True. All right, so if there are no further questions on this, I think we can entertain a motion for continuation of this hearing, and your planning board appointment or schedule is soon, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That is next Tuesday night.
So if we schedule you for our next meeting, which is the 23rd of this month, presumably we'll have enough information to just close and go with that. So I'm going to say we need a motion to continue until 1/23/23.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion made by Ron, seconded by Tama. Roll call votes.
It was Dan, Julian. I, Dan, made the. I'm on the phone. I couldn't get on this meeting.
I thought I saw Ron's lips moving. Did I?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's all right. Get on then.
I think
That's
Dan
fine.
made it first.
Okay, well, we're giving it to Ron this time. Dan, you're up next. So,
Okay.
so starting roll call vote with Ron and Dan. How do you do?
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Mark,
Aye.
aye. Tama,
aye.
and I think I got everybody, but I'll throw in my eye as well. All right, so next item. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you, sir, gentlemen, ladies. Have a good night.
You bet.
Thank you.
Next item is request for determination of applicability for 127 Bird Street, determination number 1131 for proposed plan to raise an existing structure and construct a single-family house. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, good evening. This is Craig Skanowski, RIM Engineering, representing the applicant and now the owner of the property, Bill Freese. So I can share screen. Where's it at? Oops. You all see that?
We do. I do.
Okay. So 127 Burt Street is an existing wooded property that was originally owned by the people to the east, Millards. And they broke out this lot back in the 80s. There's a small 720 square foot structure sitting just off. It's in a lawn area next to their property. That's to be raised. And we're proposing to construct this house for Mr. Freese. We flagged the wetlands here, the bordering vegetated wetlands. We have a 100-foot buffer zone. There's also a 100-year floodplain that runs around 74.5 down on the slope here, following this bubble in the contouring. So our closest point of construction is 103 feet would be the limit of clearing. And our proposed house corner would be 119.7. We did have a approved perk witnessed by the Board of Health agents. So we have a septic system designed 147 feet from BBW with the grading at about 110 feet. Assuming that the wetlands line was approved as shown, we're just asking for a request for determination of applicability, negative determination. You have any questions? I should say for the roof water, we're putting it into a Caltech chambers behind the house. And then along the driveway, we're directing the runoff into an infiltration basin that'll run on the westerly side. So we'll pitch it from the east to the west into a stone line trench.
Well, so by your illustration, pretty much all the construction is out of the buffer zone, and the only thing is your limit of clearing seems to bump right up against it, and that's it. Is that your?
Yeah, we're about 103 feet from the wetlands with our limit of clearing. Assuming that John approved the wetlands flags, then that's where we would be.
John, do you approve of the wetlands flag?
I approve of the wetland flags.
And sounds like you would approve of a negative determination here too.
As long as the rest of the board members agree.
Questions from anybody?
Craig, I just had a quick question relative to the flood zone elevation. Is there a note on your plan that references the elevation?
Should,
If not, I mean, I have no problem with it, if you can just add it to either the call out.
There is a line there labeled the 100-year.
Yeah, but typically,
But-
Julie, when you have an 8E, this elevation assigned to it, and you want to write that elevation down instead of somebody trying to guess what it is someday, that's all.
So I guess the suggestion would be to the item addressed in the notes section that say land subject to flooding FEMA zone AE.
Yes.
I would put in
Elevation,
put in
right,
parentheses elevation
thank you.
74.5.
I mean, it is an RDA, so we want to make sure that that's clear.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing or hearing none, I think we can consider a motion to close and then a quick motion possibly for a negative determination.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for DET file 1131 at 127 Burt Street.
Second.
Sorry, Dan, you missed again. That was Ron who got the second and Lisa got the first. So roll call vote starting with Ron and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Lisa.
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. We're back in our regular meeting. We can entertain a motion for either a negative or, if you think, positive determination. Dan, this is your moment.
I'll make a motion to issue a -3, just pending the elevation added to the flood zone elevation added to the plan for DET 1131.
A motion for -3 with the suggested modifications, seconded by,
Second.
I think, well, all right. I'm afraid Ron beat you again, Dan.
Quite all right.
Again, roll call vote starting with Tama and Ron.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries, negative determination. Craig, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item C, notice of intent, file number 250-1119, 0 South Washington Street. Do we have a representative of that project?
Yes,
I see it says Dave Patuick.
yes, I'm here, and then Bob Crowell should be here too, as well as Nicole from Goddard. Consulting.
This is Bob Kroll. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
so, yeah, we can, and perhaps one of you could describe the project.
Okay. The project takes up about 8.3 acres. It's on the south side of South Street. I guess it does. The street runs.
Bob,
From east to
before
west.
you get into explaining it, could one of you, either Nicole or yourself share the plan that you guys have generated?
I cannot do that.
Nicole,
I can pull it up.
thank you.
See. Okay, can you see it?
Not quite yet. There we go. We
All
got it.
right.
Why don't we, okay, that's the cover sheet and
Yeah.
it kind of shows the whole lot. It's the eight, okay, there's the existing conditions plan. It
Mhm.
shows the wetland line.
Right.
The lot, the dry area looks like the state of Florida. So on the left, upper left, it looks like the panhandle and then it goes down. Yeah, so that's what we have. We have a 25-foot no touch, okay.
Right,
let's see.
which is right here. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a 25-foot no touch and all of the grading is outside of that area. And we have approximately 150 parking spots. It's going to be a parking lot and Dave has a contract if it gets approved with Amazon. And the stormwater is handled in two areas. There's 3 sets of catch basins and they all go to infiltration areas. It's all infiltrated. There's no runoff going into the wetlands. And this has gone through the review engineer, Patrick at Amory Engineering. He reviewed it and we're all good. So we did that. He also looked at the mounting calculations and we're good with that. In the area, it's 78 feet to ledge, so the mounting is not a problem. Now, I feel pretty good about this project, but we were supposed to have a meeting today with the planning board, and I ended up going anyway. And I spoke with the town planner, Maria, and we had a previous meeting with the planning board a week and a half ago or so, and they're wanting us to put a landscape buffer, and so we're going to be tweaking this plan a little bit. I've already done it. If I had a little bit more time, I would have had it all done. And what it affects is the entrance stays the same. The lower portion of Florida doesn't change. And the part, if you run that going right up in there, that stays the same. But we're going to be pulling the parking lot parallel to the street. We're going to be moving it so it's just 20 feet off the property line. So I have it almost done. And what's going to happen is we're going to be reducing the paved area. Now, just to give you a few numbers on what's going on, we have about 52,864 square feet of paving. The lot, 59.1% of the lot is wetland, 40.9% is upland. And the area that we're dealing with is, it'll probably just be a little bit under what we have there. So I'm talking to John Thomas when I was there. We would love to have closed it today, and if you wanted to, I'd be happy about it. But what he would like to send the revised plan to the review engineer just to have him take a quick look. Like I said, I have it just about done. I'm just looking at the where Florida meets the Panhandle in that corner. I'm just dealing with that to make the parking proper. I'm going to probably lose 2 or 3, well, maybe 3 or 4 spots to make it work. But that's what we're trying to do, and I think we did a good job. We're staying out of the wetland. We're in 2 spots. We're just going to be just close to the 25-foot no touch zone. But I think what we're doing is good. Let's see. So on the slope banks, there's gonna be some slopes around the edge, and we will be putting ground cover on that. And, we won't be dealing with any of the wetlands. So that's about what we're doing. If you have any questions or concerns.
Well, my initial question is actually for John Thomas.
Okay.
So the only impact is first, it's being partially built in the buffer zone, but then the statement is that all of the storm runoff goes into these infiltration basins, and that's been reviewed by a consultant? Was it our consultant or in combination with the planning board?
So this one has been in, because the majority of the projects is located within the buffer zone. The stormwater review is being handled by us. So
Okay.
Pat Brennan, he actually started up his new firm. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's PGB Engineering now, Pat Brennan Engineering. But his firm is going to be taking this one on. But I suggested to Bob today, after his discussion with the planning board on the modifications to the site plan for the buffer strip along the, I guess, the South Washington Street and the parking lot there, yes. So there needs to be a 20-foot wide buffer strip to meet the zoning requirements. So in anticipation of that, Bob's working on that. And I suggested that, just to make sure that the project still meets all the compliance criteria with stormwater, just to have Pat take another spin through it, make sure that the design components all match up and they all are in compliance with the stormwater handbook and our local bylaw.
So I guess the question is this some kind of an art installation where Amazon delivery drivers have a flash mob assembly, or is it associated with some kind of building nearby?
No, this is what happens. The drivers come in at various times. They come into the parking lot, they park their car in the aisle, they pull their van out, they put their car into the spot, and then they go drive out. They come up to South Washington Street and they take a right, and then they head over to the warehouse to load up.
All right, I got it now. Not a conservation question, but I was just curious.
Yep.
Uh,
That's the plan.
Any other questions among the commission?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Nicole to walk us through how the riverfront area was established with the flagging. I'm not seeing new annual flags. And then how does wetland B qualify under the act?
So the riverfront area was reviewed and flagged in the field with Bob and the agent. I don't see the flags here on this plan set, but we do have them on a different. Oh, here it is. There is the riverbank right here that was looked at in the field by Bob, the engineer, and the agent. The 100-foot riverfront area is right here. The 200 riverfront area is right here. So all work is outside the riverfront area. Wetland B is an isolated wetland. That is a non-jurisdictional wetland. It doesn't qualify as isolated land subject to flooding, and it's not regulated under a local bylaw. We're still not doing anything with this wetland. It's going to be protected because we're not doing any work in that area, but that's how it's been classified. And we do have an ORAD for this parcel, and that was also reviewed under that ORAD and approved.
Just to clarify, the wetland resource areas for BBW were confirmed under that ANRAD.
And that's still valid?
That's still valid, yes. So that was recent. That was last year. The riverfront was not. So anticipation of this, Bob Kroll and myself walked out there and we found the mean annual high water line of those, and he field surveyed those in. So that riverbank, although those flag locations there were flags there, aren't shown on the plan. There are flags out there that could be located and should be shown on the plan. So that's an oversight on my part for not seeing those flag nodes.
Yeah, I would want to see the river main annual flag identification locations, and then also if you're going to qualify wetland B as an IBW, that's how it should be stated or labeled, I should say. Right now, it just says wetland area. That doesn't really tell me what it is. So
Okay, yep,
Okay.
we can make those plan changes.
okay, and then I assume I shouldn't assume. Is there a flood zone or anything on this site?
It's not in a flood zone. And there's a note on existing, let's see.
Okay. And then
Somewhere here.
we probably should have backed up, but where is this on South Washington Street?
Okay,
There's no context right now.
I'm
okay,
trying to move that's all the people's faces are on the there's
The
locus.
project is opposite of Lopes Drive.
well, Lopes Drive is close to the
Right
left
here.
side, the left property line.
Yeah, the Lopes Drive is right where my cursor is.
Actually, no, it's not. It's
Oh,
it's
This
right-
one, oh, here it is, I'm sorry.
It
Yeah,
had been mislabeled before, and I changed
Okay.
it.
Thank you. That's all I had to.
Any other questions from commission members or the audience about this? And I gotta say, whoever's speaking, not really understandable. I don't know where the sounds are coming from, but it's not a voice. There's a, no, so this is the computer that has the name Miles Devine attached to it.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to call into the number because your connection
yeah, this is
horrible.
not working.
So, sorry, whoever's trying to speak, you need to on the agenda. If you call into the main line that's on there, there's no way we can hear you on the way that you're doing this right now. So I'm gonna either kick you or you have to mute, please. Thank you.
So if you look at the posted agenda, there's a number to call in, and then we can entertain your question.
So we have a question from Julie Cleary.
Yes, thank you. So that's my wife. I'm Dylan Cleary.
And just identify where you live as well.
158 South Washington Street.
Okay, go ahead.
So I guess I want to start off. I'm still a bit confused by these plans. I mean, it could just be me, but the plans are a bit confusing, especially that Lopes Drive thing. It seems like it's in the wrong place. It seems like it's in like two places. I can't see the plans right now on the screen, but it seems like where the Lopes Drive was written on the plans is actually like where my driveway is, and the road down a bit is actually Lopes Drive.
Maybe you guys can put the plan up again with a slightly broader.
Nicole, can you please share the plan again?
Yeah, hold on, let me try to share screen, okay? Mm. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yeah, and now I think you had,
There's a
Okay,
Lopes driveway.
Right
yeah,
there.
but that's, do we have something of smaller scale, like, even,
It appears to be mislabeled. There's another that shows Lopes Drive.
Yeah,
labeled.
from the planning board meeting, we changed that. Where it's shown now is correct. If you go to maybe the existing conditions plan, it's at a little larger scale. We can, is that it? Okay.
Yeah, well, it says Lopes Drive here, and then it says driveway to 176 South Washington, right here.
Right. So that's right across, almost, we're in between, the entryway is in between those 2 points.
That plan right there is correct. That's been changed to the correct way. I've checked that myself.
Okay, so the entrance to this parking lot is gonna be to the right of the Lopes Drive, that road that's there, Lopes Drive.
Right here. Right here's the entrance.
All right,
This is
gotcha.
176 South Washington, and then Lopes Street Drive is right here.
Okay, just wanted to make sure of that, because my understanding is that the parking lot is gonna be closer to my house than what this plan is showing. And I was also just a little confused about, I know you guys are updating plans. What is it? I was confused on where you're moving it. You're moving it closer to Lopes Drive, or you're moving it
No.
just
No,
farther off
further
the
away.
street?
No,
So-
the entrance is gonna stay right where it is. What we're
Okay.
doing is they want a 20-foot landscape buffer. So
Okay.
my plan is just gonna be moving down the page. So that's
Okay.
what we're doing. We're moving it, so the entrance doesn't change.
Gotcha.
Most of the lot stays the same. The lower part of Florida doesn't move. All the drainage, the infiltration staying right where it is. We're just shifting around the paved area a little bit.
all right, any other questions?
Looks like we have a question from
Yeah,
Tracy Del Grosso.
Hi,
so
yes, Tracy Del Grosso. I live at 172 South Washington Street. And I also had a few questions on these plans. So if you look at the map and you can see where it says the iron rod is found. So if you look at the outer right edge,
Yes,
so if you follow that across the street, so that would bring us to where the cemetery is. Because I've dug there to plant things, and there's that big red iron rod. So if you look just to the left of that, that's my driveway, okay? And then if you see where 176 South Washington is, that's Lopes Drive, legit Lopes Drive, okay? So then if you go to where the other Lopes Drive is, where it's labeled Lopes Drive, I feel like that is mismarked.
Dave,
Nope, no, if you change that, Bob, that's the way it is, and
Yeah.
that's Lopes Drive is to the left, and to the right is that place that has a sign for the cabinet manufacturer.
Right, so literally my driveway is like right where the S is in South Washington. And the one that's,
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, what was your address, please?
I'm 172.
Let me just bring that up.
oh, okay, so the driveway just to the left of South Washington.
So if you look at the S in South, that's
Yep.
my driveway,
Okay.
okay? So if you look at where it says driveway 176, that's Lopes Drive.
Say that again, please. Where's yours on the map
I'm right where under the S in South.
with the bold S? Right there to the right?
Yes.
yeah, there's a driveway there, yeah.
Yeah, that's me. And then to the right of that, where the T is, the last T in street, that is the cabinetry place. Okay, so then where it says driveway 176 on the left of my driveway, that's Lopes Drive. So I'm not sure where this other Lopes Drive is labeled. I don't know what house that is.
So I actually have the assessor's map up
Yeah,
Um,
that's something to look
what I'll
at.
do is I'll actually stop your sharing and
Okay.
share my screen. That way, everybody can see what our assessors department has. So just give me 1 second. Can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
We can.
All right, so here's where the applicant is proposing the project. Okay, here's Lopes Drive on the left-hand corner here.
Mhm.
Can actually throw on the aerial too to make it a little easier. And then this is that huge warehouse project for, I guess, 176 South Washington.
Okay, yeah, so we have, what we have is right, correct.
So to give everybody a little clarity, Lopes Drive is on the left-hand side. The furthest left-hand side here, 176 is in the middle. And then on the right, this property is 180 South Washington Street.
And number
So-
60 is the cemetery, I believe.
Which one's the cemetery, Dave?
60, I believe.
This
Right
one right
there.
here?
Is that the
Yeah, so
cemetery?
this is the cemetery, then the town of Norton owns this piece right here. Okay? Just to give everybody a little bit more clarity.
Yeah, just not to belabor the point, but there are differences between the plans that were included in our packet in terms of what's labeled Lopes Drive and what's not. So,
When did you receive that package? Because we changed this just recently.
I'll leave that for John.
Yeah, I'd have to double check to see when the most recent packet was submitted.
The most recent plan should be on the drive that the commission got.
So,
And the plan I'm looking at is dated 12/5 on the cover page. Date issue 12/5.
If we had a revision, on 12/29.
so that could be where the miscommunication was.
All right, so I mean, it sounds like you guys have fixed it, but obviously double checking might be reasonable. But I mean, these really don't affect the project itself. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Yeah, these are all site plan review things that need to be handled with the planning board. So I think they meet, is it next Tuesday? So if there's is that correct, Bob?
Dave, when is it? I thought it was the 17th. Am I
Is it
wrong?
the 17th?
17th or 19th? I don't have it right in front of me.
They're meeting next Tuesday.
I thought they were meeting next Tuesday, yeah.
Is it Tuesday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so-
Which is the 17th? Okay, yep.
Right, so any questions pertaining to the planning board, site plan review, will, if any abutters are concerned with the design outside of environmental, please feel
So-
free to attend that meeting.
All right, so Mr. Cleary, you left your hand up. Does that mean you still have a question, or is it? all
Yeah,
set?
and I'm joined by my neighbor Pam.
Hello, how
Hi.
are you? You couldn't hear me, I apologize. I'm still unclear exactly where this access road is going in. Because I'm located at 166 South Washington Street. When I look at the plan, it kind of looks like the access road is coming directly across to my house. That's why this is unclear, because I'm not a plan person. I think we still are kind of little. So you're basically saying that access road is Lopes Drive, then you have Tracy's property, and it's gonna be down lower. It's not coming up towards 166, because there's a lot of the wetlands. When I look across my street, I'm concerned if it's anywhere near there, if it's a vernal pool or whatever, then it's gonna be some problems, and I'm concerned about the protection of these wetlands.
Well, and obviously our conservation director can speak to this, but the part of the purpose of this hearing is to be sure that the wetlands don't get impacted, and we've we've confirmed the boundary, et cetera. So I don't think you have to be concerned about that, but it sounds like one thing that would be helpful, and I don't know if the applicant's representatives are willing to do it, but if you were to just put two stakes that are labeled, you know, right side of the driveway, left side of the driveway, at the site where the driveway is going in, might be helpful for the abutters and neighbors to have clarity about reviewing the plan.
Yes.
That's good.
No, I don't have any problem with that, to do that.
Great, thank you.
All right.
If I can just say one thing real quick.
For the abutter.
If I could just say one thing to the neighbors, I understand the way they feel about change, and we all kind of have that fear going up, and the world's changing around all of us. I have a house, I have children, work very hard for the spot that I have here in Norfolk where I live, and I would never want to impact an abutting neighbor or a neighbor for the sake of $1 to take away from somebody else's peace and tranquility in their home. I'm not wired that way. So I'll work with them on anything they need, or any concerns they have. You know, I want everybody to be happy, and it's not a successful situation unless everybody's happy and nobody gets anything taken away from them. And I won't let that happen. And they can come to me personally, call me on my phone, or anytime. I'll be happy to meet with them and do whatever's required to make sure everybody is treated fairly.
Yeah, I understand, but I think it will be easy if they can have something concrete to look at that's labeled.
Absolutely.
And I think that will help them relate the plan to what's on the ground.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I see another hand up on Tracy Del Grosso. Is that a new question?
Yeah, it's me, Del Grosso. It's fine. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for those comments you said about the peace and tranquility in our house. There's more to this than you know, the plans and the wetlands and things like that. This is our house, and there's so much wildlife that's out there, and we are deeply concerned with the flooding. We are deeply concerned with what is going to happen to those wetlands and vernal pools when there's a concrete or tar asphalt parking lot out there across the street with all these vehicles coming and going at who knows what hours. So I understand like what you're trying to do, but you know, this is our homes, and we like the peace and tranquility that we have, and to have that parking lot on top of the wetlands. Like, if you've seen it lately, it is absolutely soaked over there. I don't understand how anything can be built over there, to be honest with you. So I don't know if anyone from the conservation can come over and look at it, because it's awful. So thank you for listening to my concerns. I appreciate that, everybody.
Can I answer your question? We are infiltrating the water, so the stormwater is collected in catch basins, and then they go to what's called a storm scepter. And what the storm scepter does, it has a vortex. The water goes in there, it spins around, and it separates the silt and dirt, and it also separates the oil. So we're going to have a parking lot here, but it's going to collect that. And so before it goes into the infiltration system, it's going to be cleaned up before it does that. And so we have two of them. There's one for the upper one, and then we have a larger storm scepter that goes into the two other ones. So, you know, and again, we're not dumping any stormwater into the wetland. We are keeping it all on site. We're cleaning it, we're treating it before it goes into the water. So, you know, we should be good stewards to the wetlands. We're not going to be harming the wetlands. And during construction, you know, we put hay bales up and to prevent.
No hay bales.
No,
Straw wattles.
I misspoke.
It's all right. Correction.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're also throwing the term vernal pool around here. So Nicole, perhaps you want to clarify the record to state whether this is mapped as any vernal pools out there, potential or otherwise certified?
No, according to the maps, there are no certified or potential vernal pools located on this lot.
Okay. Thank you. That was just for the record, Tracy, so I don't know if somebody misguided you or misinformed you about the presence of vernal pools there. So,
Thank you.
So it sounds like this is going to require continuation because you have a planning board process to deal with before everything gets finalized. So are the applicants or the representatives of the applicants amenable to a continuation? And I'm assuming even our next meeting, which is the 23rd, would be suitable.
What would the continuation be for?
Well, so Dave, we're just gonna tweak the parking area a little bit. Again, the infiltration system's not gonna change. Just very little of the grading is gonna change. But, you know,
I think a more reasonable thing would be to make the notes and make sure that those changes are made and presented to John or his board as we go ahead. There's no reason to really bump this another month. It's already been bumped many times. And you know, with the nice weather, we'd like to take care of it. It's just.
Well, it hasn't been bumped from us many times. This is the first time I've seen this project.
Just in general, all kinds of things, everything.
Yeah, but we don't sit on things for the just to sit on things. So the one reason is so that the commission can see the plan revision and then say, fine, we're fine with that, and then close and issue an order. And you know, as with regard to maintaining efficiency, you're right. Chances are it's going to be minimal, and chances are we will have an order of conditions ready to review next meeting, and that we can review the plans if they're revised, and then close and then issue the order. So we're aware that you guys want to get going, but we accommodate that the best we can with regard to being efficient.
So what is it that we're looking at, that you're looking for to see again?
So
the revised plans.
Dave, the plans need to be revised because if the commission were to close this meeting, you would have to come back and it would only delay this project even further than what we're proposing for this process as we got it going right now. So what's going to happen is the commission's going to, you're going to request a continuance to the next meeting. In the interim, what's going to happen is Bob and his team are going to generate a revised plan, submit it over to Pat Brennan, the peer reviewer. Pat's going to provide us a response before the next meeting, and those plans are going to get revised. And in the interim, I'm going to generate a potential draft order that the commission may have at their discretion to review as part of this project. So hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, you could potentially have an order of conditions in hand by the next meeting.
And the revisions are what? Could we just tell me the revisions again, please?
So the revisions are to accommodate the planning board's project that they want to see the 20-foot vegetative buffer between the street and your proposed parking lot.
So it should be just 4 or 5 days between the planning board meeting and your the next conservation meeting. So it's you know, it's not going to be too bad.
No, you should be able to accommodate this. It's just you've got some work ahead of you to get through. And like I said, you know, I will draft up a draft order in anticipation that, for instance, you can accommodate all those things that the commission has requested.
Okay, and I'm just asking again for what are the things that they're requesting again, please?
Yeah, but let me interrupt and say that what we are proposing is potentially going to be shorter than what you were proposing, because if you said, fine, we're going to close, we're going to issue an order, but under these circumstances, that order would be no work can be done until the revised plans are reviewed. And that would potentially take longer than waiting for us to do a quick review.
No, I'm okay with that. I'm just curious what the orders, what the changes are that we're looking at, yeah. Or what are the,
That depends on the planning board now, doesn't it?
It's the planning board, it's labeling that wetland, those are the plan changes, and then you have to stake out the entrance so that the abutters can see it.
the stakes, and what was the other item again?
So
first
the
one?
riverfront flags need to be shown on the plan, okay?
Oh,
The stakes
alright.
for visual observation for the commission and also the abutters.
Mhm.
The buffer strip, vegetative buffer meeting the planning board requirements needs to be put on the plan. And what other one am I meeting? Oh, and Pat Brennan needs to provide a response stating that the work doesn't constitute any sort of major change for stormwater,
Okay,
okay?
And I'm very confident that that'll happen. It's very minor changes that we're doing.
okay. I'm good with that, and again, if anybody,
Bear in mind, from our working perspective,
I'm sorry,
well, I was gonna say, this is our standard operating
procedure. Okay, I understand,
procedure,
and I'm okay
we're
with
doing it to help accommodate you as well.
So I think the commission's looking towards the applicant to request a continuance till the next
Okay.
meeting, which would be 1/23/23.
yes, I would like to request that, please.
So moved.
We have to make a motion first.
Alright,
I'll make
we
a
can-
motion to continue the public hearing, file 250-1119 to January 23rd.
All right, I think this time Dan did get it. Is that correct? You said so moved. Is that right, Dan?
Yes, I did.
All right, so motion made by Dan. Motion made by
No,
Dan,
motion made
seconded
by
by
Lisa,
Lisa.
seconded
Roll
by.
call vote going, well, that's not what I heard. What I heard is so moved and then you came in after.
Right,
So
because a commission member didn't make the motion, it was the applicant. That's why.
No, Dan Pearson on phone. No, Dan Pearson on the phone made the motion.
Okay, whatever, it's made, let's go.
All right. What's a roll call vote? Starting with Lisa and Ron,
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. So we'll see you guys on the 23rd. Although, if things are totally minor, there may be no need to have you guys here, but you can deal with that issue through John Thomas. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is item D, notice of intent, file number 250-1120, 257 Plain Street. Do we have a representative of that applicant?
Yes, this is Craig Siganowski, Rim Engineering again. Rodney and Lynn Feeney are also on the call. I can share the screen again.
You should have hosting capabilities, Craig.
Yeah. Okay, is that on the screen for you?
Not quite yet.
No. Oh. So that should run it up.
We can see it.
Okay, so this is property at 257.
If I could just ask you to enlarge it a little bit.
Okay. You want to see further out or?
No, even that's better, I think.
Okay. So we directly abut the Mulberry Meadow Brook, which is to the west of the property. About 2 houses to the east is Suzanne Drive. It's the existing house with the resource areas being the mean annual high watermark, which was flagged by Brad Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration, as well as the BBW that adjacent to the riverbank. There is a 100-year floodplain that is at elevation 73, which should be noted on this plan. Yeah, up in this over here is zone AE at elevation 73. We have the 100 and 200 foot riparian zones in the red here, and the 100-foot buffer zone of the BBW in this orange color here. So what they're looking to do is attach to the existing house a breezeway with a garage. Now zoom down over here to a little detail of what they're looking to do. So it's a 28 by 32 foot garage with a 8 by 20 foot breezeway. The majority of the garage will be sitting on the existing paved driveway. And about 5 to 10 feet along the edge of this paved driveway is the limit of tree line, which I'm not showing, just to clarify. But where I have the proposed limit of work siltation control is the existing tree line. So there are no trees to be cut. The southerly portion, 10 feet or so by 28 of the garage, will sit on existing lawn. So the entire area we're working in, although it's within the inner riparian, within the 100-foot BBW, is a previously disturbed developed portion of the lots. See where total proposed construction in the inner riparian is 480 square feet. But again, it's on previously disturbed, pre-developed property. So we're meeting the grade for the garage, the existing driveway. So they will have to dig down for the 4-foot frost walls, but there will not be a full foundation under this. There will be no additional pavement, and as far as additional impervious area will be roughly 10 by about 280 square feet. The roof water for the garage and the breezeway will be connected to the Caltech chambers in the rear yard, which this is all over here. This is there's a chain link fence that runs along pretty much the limit of clearing. This is a lawn area where we're putting the Caltech chambers 20 feet from our foundation, 20 feet from the house. So this is all existing lawn area, existing paved driveway that we're working on.
So technically, then you're actually reducing runoff from, well, maybe I should rephrase that. You're taking runoff from some impervious area that already exists and putting it in an infiltration system. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can look at it. We're replacing some existing pavement which runs off towards the driveway, towards the Plain Street. It's graded right now from the back of the house towards Plain Street. So we're removing that amount of pavement, and then all of this impervious will go into an infiltration system behind the house. So we'll reduce what's going towards Plain Street at this time.
That fairly steep embankment going toward Mulberry Meadow Brook, is that all treed all the way down to the wetland?
Yes, so this is an existing shed in this area here. The chain link fence is on the back edge, and right behind there is a small amount of clearing, maybe 10 feet. Then it's heavily wooded. Same thing over here. We have the pavement line, the utility pole here, so overhead comes to this and then goes to the house. So along here is minimal grass, and then the rest is heavily wooded, which will not be touched. There aren't any trees that we're planning to take down. The again, the existing tree line is about 6 to 10 feet west of the existing driveway.
Any questions from members of the commission? Any questions from the audience? And it's my understanding that we pretty much have all the information, but John, maybe you can correct me. Is this suitable for closing tonight?
Based on my review, I mean, I had no issues with any of the flags that were done by their wetland consultant. And, you know, like I said in my memo to the commission, I think that, you know, the Coltex itself is an overall improvement to kind of what they're proposing. And the majority of the proposed garage is within a pre-existing pavement, you know, as part of a pre-existing permit that they had back in when the house was built, so.
All right, so unless there's any further questions, I think we can consider a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1120 at 257 Plain Street.
Second.
We have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Tama, to close the public hearing. Roll call vote beginning with Tama and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Dan.
Aye.
And Ron. Ron, you're up for a vote.
Ron is frozen.
Looks like Ron isn't hearing us, but I'll throw in my eye, and I guess we'll have to be happy with that. So, oh yeah, Ron is frozen. There's no. Oh, here we go. We can you hear us, Ron?
Ron, we need an eye from you.
Yeah, it's well, it's not coming through. So, but I think we can be happy that the motion carries and the hearing is closed. So thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
And our next item is 0 West Main Street. We don't have a file number. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Hi, Greg Driscoll from JDE Civil, representing Douglas King Builders tonight for the project at 0 West Main Street.
Greg, you have sharing capabilities, so you can share your screen if you want.
Yep.
And please identify the site location once you're up and running so that everybody knows where we're working with, what we're working with.
Absolutely. All right. All right, so this is 0 West Main Street. Map 21, lot 206. This is the existing conditions plan for the project. So if you remember, this site was the same project that we housed before you with in August last year. I think it was the only live meeting you guys had for an RDA regarding the drainage ditch right through here, which was determined through the RDA process to be an intermittent stream. So I'll just go through my presentation here. The applicant, Douglas King Builders, is looking to obtain the necessary land permits to improve this piece of property on West Main Street in Norton. They'd like to do is
let me just interject. For those who wonder where on West Main Street, if you don't already know, Oak Street is just to the right of this project, where Oak Street meets 123. And I think that will orient people.
Yeah. And back behind it are the condos.
Edgemere.
There we go. This is
Edgewater, I think it is.
Oak Street's labeled here, and
Edgewater
Drive.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Okay. All right, so the applicant is looking to construct a mixed-use building on the property. It's going to be a 4,000 square foot building, 2 stories. On the first floor, they're looking to do a dentist office. And on the second floor, 4 apartments. Site's located in the Village Commercial District on the southern side of West Main Street. Surrounding uses include residential homes to the north, west, and southern sides. Church and the middle school are to the east, and as is a bank. And the parcel is identified as map 21, lot 206. Wetland resource areas were delineated by Brad Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration back in September of 2021. Wetland delineation memo was included in the NOI report. Site contains boring vegetated wetlands along here and along here. An intermittent stream, as I already mentioned. 25-foot no-touch buffer in red, and a 50-foot buffer in magenta, and the 100-foot buffer is in yellow. And as I mentioned, on August 9th, 2022, the Norton Conservation Commission issued a determination number 1126, regarding the drainage ditch as an intermittent stream. There's no other wetland resource areas on the site. However, since the wetland was initially flagged until we filed the NOI, I believe mosquito control comes through here and maintains this ditch, and they had done some clear cutting through there. So we went back, our survey crew went and rehung the flags, and Mr. Thomas met out there with Brad Holmes to look at the flags right around the time we submitted the NOI. And I believe down around here, John, you guys identify what might be a potential vernal pool.
Yeah, that could be a potential vernal pool.
Okay. So as I noted, the project is for this proposed building right here, 4,000 square feet. There'll be proposed parking to the rear and side, 28 parking spaces as required by zoning. Move on to the drainage plan. So in order to develop the site, we are going to be paving the parking lot. This is a high point through here where drainage will flow overland through 2 sediment forebays in series in order to get the 44% TSS removal before this proposed infiltration basin back in here. We couldn't get the entire site to flow back here, so there's a high point and a catch basin right here, right along the property line that catches this small portion of the area and goes into this small infiltration basin over here to the west. This area over here is reserved for a proposed septic system. Tried to fit it under the parking lot, but it was going to cause us to raise it too much and have too much of a slope coming down through the existing road. So the next step is for us to complete design plans for the septic system and submit that to Board of Health, which we might have to go back out and do more soil testing. But we're aware of that. So along the easterly side of the property, there is another drainage area that goes into this swale. Want to make sure no water is flowing off onto the neighboring abutting property. So we created a swale along here for all these landscape areas and an infiltration trench to accept that water and infiltrate into the ground. The soils out here are really good. They're sandy soils, hydraulic soil group A. So the water soaks into the ground readily. Real quick, this is the existing drainage area map. Shows there's a ridge line just off the property here, and then up along here, it's basically the edge of pavement. And all of the water flows in this direction towards the wetland and the ditch. And this is the designation for the soil type. There's a BD soil through here, and the rest of this is all Hinkley, loamy sand, hydraulic soil group A. The proposed drainage areas, this breaks down what's going where for the proposed situation. This right here is the area described that's going to this PBA Pond 1A. The overland flow, as well as this paved area right here. And this high point and all this area around the basin go into this basin. And then this is the area that flows into this infiltration swale. The rest of this flows overland to the drainage area, to the design point and the wetlands. The way that this drainage basin is designed, we're infiltrating all the water. This isn't an outlet control structure. This right here is actually a drawdown pipe with a valve in the bank that's normally closed. So that's not normally have water flowing through it. That's only for maintenance purposes and emergency spillway. So we are infiltrating all of the water that comes off in this basin as well. Same thing, there's no outlet structure. There is a overflow for emergency spillway. We have 1 foot of pre-board designed to both basins. I believe this one has more than a foot. What else can I say? So this area that's hatched along here is proposed to be, it's called out on here, a deer-resistant meadow seed mix. So what happens with soils that are too good, soils that are sandy soils and A soils, even if we're not paving this area, it's just grading from the basin down. And if it was to be lawn, that's enough of a change in cover type that would increase the runoff. So we're looking to replicate the type of runoff characteristics of the existing wooded area by planting this meadow mix along the outer edge of the stormwater basin up to about this point. Also forgot to mention there is a sod strip and there's a flush curb along here to make sure that the edge of the pavement doesn't get broken off or anything. So there's a concrete curb set flush and then a 5 foot wide sod strip prior to the 2 sediment forebays in series. We're also putting the roof drains in under the ground and discharging those directly into the basin here. And again, this is all gonna infiltrate into the ground. And then we have private utilities coming, well, public utilities, the water's coming through here and the gas and electric will come off of the pole on the side of the street. So we also have a construction entrance proposed or construction exit to make sure no sediment is tracked out onto the road during construction. We're also showing a dewatering area and temporary stockpile areas outside of the 100 foot buffer. that is the overview of the project. Oh. John, if you had anything or,
Yeah, I just want to inform the commission that we did retain a peer review consultant for this, for the stormwater, so they'll be looking at that. And they'll probably have some comments pertaining to the basin that's closest to that potential vernal pool. So there may need to be some tweaks that are made in anticipation of that. So, you know, that was something that we had a discussion after all this work was done that Greg generated. So there will be probably some refinements that they'll come back with, along with the peer reviewers' comments.
yeah, so this basin may come up and get wider.
Mhm.
Get further away from that potential vernal pool.
So we don't have a DEP number for this project, and it's still subject to stormwater review. So
We did
I would-
follow up with DEP because there was a couple projects we didn't get numbers on.
right.
And we got one of them, but not this one.
Right. So I guess, you know, the next step would be for the applicant to request a continuance till the next meeting to provide the peer review consultant enough time to review this project. And hopefully by that time, we'll have a potential DEP number in hand.
We got the quote from the consultants late last week. I sent it over to the applicant and they're fine with it. And they said they were going to drop a check off today. I'm not sure if they did or not.
They did. So I signed the paperwork and we're good to go.
All right.
All right,
The intro of the project, just wanted
before we go to a motion to continue, though, we have to ask for questions from commission members.
Correct.
And then questions from the audience, if there are such. So, commission members have any issues they want to explore with us?
So I just have a couple questions. What are you using for sediment controls along the perimeter?
along the perimeter. So for the paved area, this is all going to go run overflow, run overland into these two sediment forebays.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking construction term, sediment control.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it looks like you may have, well, it should be sediment, proposed sediment control. So it looks like a filter mitt.
Yes.
Are you showing?
Compost filled filter sock, yep.
All right, so so the first note under your erosion controls talks about hay bales. If you could please strike hay bales from every note and every detail, they're no longer allowed by.
Straw bales.
So I just want to make sure those aren't introduced, and I assume you have a detail of that filter mitt somewhere?
I do. This is it. It's compost filled filter sock.
Okay, that's sediment control, by the way, just so you know.
Yep.
Not erosion control, but you might want to fix your detail. The next question I had was about just a general question about Pond 1A, if we could go back to that. Is there any reason, I mean, it's 90 degrees to the street, but is there any reason you could put 45 degrees and not cut into the buffer so much? So if you go to the grading plan for a second.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Rotate it out, try to get it out of the 50.
Yeah, I know the engineers like everything 90 degrees, but you know, sometimes you can think outside the box and say, how does this fit with the landscape a little better in the topo, which would be 45 degrees almost. Now, if there's an issue with distance from your soil absorption system, that's another issue, but I don't know.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that there, I kind of have it right.
It's going to have to come out 50 feet from the wetland regardless to meet the stormwater handbook standards. So that's just a comment the peer reviewer is probably going to put on there.
Okay.
I think that was all I had, you know, as long as this is being peer reviewed for stormwater, I had the same concerns about the PVP and the, even though there's not a direct point source, but for somebody to look at the standards. That's all I had.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else on the commission have comments or questions? If not, we can go Kelly
There was a
Murphy.
comment from Kelly Murphy. I don't, and
Right.
Freddie Bay. Annie Schuster as well?
So Kelly, you put your hand up quickly. I see it's down
Well,
again.
I did have a question. I didn't want to interrupt. I thought you were still working on the official
No.
people, not the residential people.
I think you're on, so
Okay,
go ahead.
thank you. I just had a couple of questions I just wanted to clarify. It looks like the total buffer, there's three different buffer zones, a 25, a 50, and 100. I just wanted to clarify that was correct, and then I was curious, so that would be a total of 175 feet of buffer zone.
There's really no 50 foot. I don't know where that's coming from.
So the 50 foot's there for compliance with the stormwater handbook.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So there are three buffer zones that total 175, which is like equivalent to the like.
No, there's a 100-foot buffer zone, and then there's some interior buffer zones, and these are all originate from where the wetlands are delineated. So
Okay.
you'll see that there's flag numbers that say WF dash with a number. Those are where the mapped resource areas for the wetlands are associated with that drainage ditch, and you derive a horizontal buffer outwards from there, and that goes 25, 50, and 100. And the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission is within 100 feet of that mapped wetland.
Okay. So the buffer between that property line and again, I didn't identify myself. I'm a trustee for the River Crossing condominiums, which is part of that Edgewater Drive, Spring Lane. So I'm thinking that the water line is sort of the property line. I think it goes down where that little river is.
Yeah, the stream and drainage way meanders the property line from what I recall.
Yeah. So there's about 100-foot buffer is what you're saying between our property lines because of the natural water line?
If that's what you want to say, then there would be a 100-foot buffer in either direction. So towards the Edgewater development, and then towards this project, there would be a 100-foot buffer, if that's what you're trying to say
Yeah.
to me. Okay.
And then the basin, will there be, I don't know how deep it's going to be and if there's going to be any kind of railing around it for safety?
It's not required. It's
That's a no?
no, unless the commission may require it, but as far as stormwater management goes and the Wetlands Protection Act, it's not required.
And how deep is it?
It is just over 2 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, just over 2 feet.
And then can you also expand a little bit on the use of the building? I see that it says dentist office. So when it says mixed use, is it only a one tenant type thing? Is it a dentist office and something else, or is it just one thing?
It's going to be a dentist office on the first floor.
And then 4 residential units on the 4th floor.
On the second
floor.
Yep.
Okay. And is the dentist office a done deal, or could it turn into something else?
They have an agreement on the land, subject to getting the permits.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, very good. So I guess Annie Schuster, or at least the computer named Annie Schuster, has their hand up.
It's Annie Schuster, and I am also a resident of River Crossing. And I guess my concern is on the runoff of the water. How much of that water is going to flow into that little stream? Because that is in the backyards of our neighbors on Country Circle and on Edgewater. Like, is that going to become an issue without all the drainage over there from the natural trees?
Well, I'm just going to make a quick comment, and then Greg is going to either shoot me down or agree. This is designed extensively so that there will either be no runoff or likely less than currently is occurring. So, Greg, is that a fair summary? Maybe you can add to that.
Yeah, so just an overall statement is that the Wetlands Protection Act has stormwater management standards within it. And when a property is developed, the developer needs to hire somebody like myself, an engineer, to design a stormwater management system that will meet the 10 standards of the Wetlands Protection Act with regards to drainage and stormwater management. So one of those is that we need to study the site, and this is the existing drainage areas, and that's why I delineate these areas and run a hydraulic model on this property the way it is currently. And that's the set number for the future development. So I can't send any more water off the site than currently comes off of it today. And a lot of times we end up reducing the amount of water that comes off of a site. And that's what we're doing in this situation.
Well, that could be equally as dangerous, for the poor little critters that live in that water. We are surrounded by water here and we love it. But my other question is this whole property going to be clear cut? Are our neighbors going to be looking at a big commercial building from their back porches? Or are you going to leave a row of trees or replant some trees to, create some kind of buffer around that building so that we're not just looking at your building if we go out for a walk?
Yeah, so the limit of clearing is this tree line that's right in here as proposed. So we're not clearing, we can't clear past this, if this 25-foot no-touch line that is required per the local Norton requirements. But we're not going that far in most cases, right up through here. And we will revegetate this with some meadow mix type plantings.
What does that mean, meadow, like deer retardant meadow mix? Is that
It's a mixture of a seed mixture, and it's included in the drainage report, of different plant types that grow and create a meadow. It's not meant to be mowed. It'll just grow wild. And there's a list of the plants that are included in that mix within the stormwater management report. That's public information. You can get a copy from the Conservation Commission office. And we're also proposing all these, this landscaping as shown on this plan here. And that'll be discussed in further detail when we go to the planning board for site plan approval.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because we do have a lot of wildlife in our neighborhood, like walking right in the streets. Okay. So we just kind of want to try to make sure that they're not displaced.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I don't know. Anyone else have a question? I know.
I think Freddie Fay Moskowitz had a question.
Yes, hi. Thank you.
You go ahead.
Thank you. Edgewater Drive. I wondered about the parking lot and the lighting. How tall and how often will it be on? Can you talk about
planning board issue?
Yes, so that is going to be a planning board issue. Now, Greg, I believe you guys are going to be going in front of the planning board. Is that correct?
Yes, we have to go in front of planning for site plan review.
So when are you planning to go next Tuesday? Is that the intent?
We haven't filed with them yet. We want to get through at least a peer review with you guys to see what might need to be revised, and then just a revised plan to both your commission and planning board on the next go around.
Okay.
But briefly, there are we will have a lighting design prepared by a lighting vendor, and typically there is required zero light pollution or spillover at the property line. So I don't expect from the area that needs to be lit that the parking lot out towards your development will not be lit. We're not going to light up the stormwater basin or anything. That's going to be an area that's going to be kept dark.
And just about trees, you said you weren't cutting any trees down, correct?
Well, we will have to clear the area for the proposed development, but
So, trees being very important for the environment, and in that we have already some, I wouldn't say flooding, but overflow of water in our development. Is there any chance for a tree for tree? Or maybe a tree for one tree, 2 trees for 1 tree, but to give back, and it wouldn't have to be in this area, it could be anywhere in Norton, but to consider the trees. Is that a planning board?
The town doesn't currently have those stipulations or regulations. Other towns
Right,
may, but
I'm just talking about doing right, and the National Audubon Society actually funds planting of trees and helps in paying for this.
I would address that with the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I think we can consider a motion for continuing this, and our next meeting is the 23rd. I'm assuming, Greg, that that's acceptable. I know everything may not be wrapped up by then, but
yeah, we'll continue to the 23rd, and if we need more time, we can always ask for a continuance.
all right, very good. So looking for a motion for continuation.
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for 0 West Main Street, map 21, parcel 206 to January 23rd, public hearing.
Motion made by Lisa and seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Dan. Roll call vote, starting with Ron and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. I'm assuming we'll see you on the 23rd, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You bet.
Aye.
Next item, that completes our new hearings. Next item is file number 250-1105, notice of intent, 9th Street cluster. So we have a representative for the applicant.
Yes, Claire Hogeboom with LEC Environmental Consultants representing the applicant.
So maybe you could just quickly summarize what was outstanding. I know there were a couple of reviews that had to be completed, but maybe you can help us bring us up to date.
Sure. I'll just share my screen. I have the revised plans up on my screen. So since the last meeting, well, just prior to the last meeting, we met the peer reviewer, Horsley Witten, in the field, along with the agent, John Thomas, and with the goal of discussing the existing conditions of the drainage area that's contributing to our wetland crossing to determine if the proposed culvert is adequately sized. So I discussed a little bit of that at the last public hearing. We just didn't produce a report with the revised culvert size at that point. So since then, we submitted a supplement report summarizing that we revised the culvert to be 4 feet wide by 3 feet tall, and it's an open bottom box culvert. And that is depicted on sheet 12. It's actually on multiple sheets of our plan set, but this is just where I wanted to direct everybody to where the revisions made. So it's going to be generally located at the lowest point within the wetland system. And that's just ultimately on many plan sheets wherever the crossing's located. So we designed that based on a revised drainage area that Zenith produced that generally the peer reviewers agreed with, and we ran that through stream stats, and it generated a predicted bankful width of a little under 3 feet. So we are above the recommended 1.2 times bankful width for this culvert crossing. And while it's far beyond the required size to make engineering sense. We felt that since it is in an ACEC, it's important to go above and beyond when it comes to these mitigation efforts. So the applicant was happy to do the 4-foot wide by 3-foot high open bottom box culvert. And that was really the largest sort of outstanding item we had with the peer reviewer. I did just want to touch, we got their response letter in just late this afternoon. From what I understand, we don't have any other outstanding items, but I think I saw Amy Ball on the line, so I'm happy to let her chime in and let us know how she feels about everything.
Amy?
Record Amy Ball, senior ecologist with the Horsley Witten Group. Claire summarized this nicely. The most recent letter, and I apologize for the lateness of this, was really just to kind of button up all of the sort of loose ends that we had from our peer review specific to the wetlands. And as Claire mentioned, the applicant has gone back and revised the the culvert of the wetland crossing. It is sized, as Claire notes, to be greater than 1.2 times what would be the stream width. And I'm sort of trying to be careful about this language. There is no shown stream, intermittent or perennial, on the USGS map, and that's sort of what dictates whether or not you need to meet the stream crossing standards, because that's whether or not you have a stream there. Where we were going with the crossing in general was largely based upon the fact that Stream Stats had identified a stream there. So we thought it was important to just try and figure out what was going on in the field. The applicant had previously stated that the Stream Stats wasn't accurate, and we thought that it would be better to do the site visit. And it turned out that was actually a really beneficial visit. We were able to quantify sort of where the divider is between the watersheds that are feeding this. There are a couple of different streams on the site, but the watershed that's feeding this general area where the crossing will occur. And so we actually are pleased that the applicant has created a larger culvert opening than would necessarily be designed from an engineering standpoint, but we felt that would be a benefit, in general, a mitigating factor for, toward the crossing, which is in an ACEC. So a long way of saying that whatever Claire said was accurate. The only other thing that we touched upon in the field, which was in early December, was the possibility of having some sort of offsite mitigation. I know there was a lot of back and forth discussion, but there is this offsite 12-inch culvert that we had identified in previous reviews, but just in pictures. When we, Claire, I don't know if you have a photo of that or.
I'm just trying to pull up on the plans where we can show it. So this is the crossing location here, and the culvert's just located on the town property.
And so it's a an older, I believe John had filled in that it was from like 1919, 1914, something along those lines. It's a pretty old culvert. And it is at this point elevated vertically above where it would be either a stream bed or like the bed of the wetland. And it's clearly undersized. And one of the considerations might be, and we'll leave this to the commission's discretion, might be to have the applicant assist the town, and this is again also dependent on whether or not the town wishes to do this, but assist the town in perhaps designing and replacing this culvert with something a little bit more open that would allow for more of a free flow through this area. And I believe that's really just something up to the commission and the town for discussion, but that was one of the other mitigating measures that we thought we found. And then if in fact, the commission chose to go that route, this would be a separate, our recommendation would be that it would be a separate filing altogether, perhaps linked by DEP file number to this project, and have this project be linked to that potential project in a sort of an administrative record keeping manner, but otherwise have it be a separate project. I think that's about it for me. So if I can turn it back to the commission for questions, comments.
So basically, I guess this really goes to John. I mean, this is a problem that affects the functioning of the upstream wetland system. Is that correct, John?
I mean, an undersized culvert down gradient of a larger system could potentially result in some potential issues, but that's something that would need to be proven.
Does the town have a specific obligation, or do we just let it be? I'm not. I mean, part of me says, yeah, we should get this fixed. The other part of me says, I mean, if it's an obstruction, I assume it's going to go, the water level goes up and it'll go up and over this cart path that's there.
I'm putting in a CMRA grant for it. So if we get it, great. You know, I will note to the commission that this property is held by the water department, so I need their signature for approval. So I'm just letting them know that this could potentially be a problem in the future, obviously.
And this cart path that the culvert is under, is that used for anything other than it's a historic value cart path? I mean, couldn't the culvert just be removed?
I'd say if we did remove the cart path, we'd want to put some sort of bridge-like structure there for pedestrian access, because it is a highly trafficked for the public. But as it pertains to this project, I don't know what the condition will be for the trail system. As you can see, you know, it will be, I guess, changed by the proposed development as it's proposed here. So, you know, it will be something that will need to be assessed and evaluated because the trail does go onto the proposee's project. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So John, the question is how we condition it, right? To what level we hold the developer responsible? Do we want them to design it, evaluate it? I mean, I assume Keith would construct it. You know, the DPW would construct it. So I guess the question is how we word the condition.
But the developer can't be responsible. It's not on their property.
Right. Oh, yeah, they can, because they could potentially be impacting something downstream. That's the crux of the whole thing. Right? So
But their stormwater system, doesn't that, the net, there will be no net change in
no, the installation of the box culvert is what's widening this thing, you know, wide open. So did you evaluate what's going to happen to that 12-inch once that's open?
So you're asking if we evaluated what would happen down gradient with the size of the culvert currently?
Right.
I think that's something Zenith would have looked into, and generally when they ran the HydroCAD to get to the original culvert, I think it was originally 24-inch diameter. They ran that HydroCAD with the idea of what's draining to the wetland crossing and what size culvert do they need to propose that wouldn't impede any down gradient flow. So that's where the 24-inch culvert actually was larger than what they needed. A 12-inch would have been too small. So the larger we go, it's not necessarily going to add more flow to this 12-inch pipe off-site. We're just not impeding flow any further. And I would just want to maybe touch more on this subject of potentially removing the 12-inch culvert. I know earlier in a previous meeting and maybe in the discussions in the field, we talked about it potentially being mitigation for this crossing, but after speaking with the applicant about it, I think what the preference would be is to not necessarily include it as mitigation for this project at all. Just because there are difficulties with it being on town-owned land and not being land included in this application. And there could be potential issues just trying to add another parcel into this application that we've already been discussing for many meetings. So, you know, he's very open to helping the town with it, you know, construction-wise. He's already going to be out in the general area, but just from the idea of permitting it and even seeing if the project could come to fruition, you know, we don't want to necessarily tie it into this project if we can.
Right, but they're willing to contribute something. So if the town contributes the labor and the town, we do our own permit, what's left for the applicant to do? Is it the calculations to size it? What, is it anything?
It doesn't necessarily, if it works out that you guys figure out the construction and design and everything on your own and don't need the applicant, it's totally fine too. I think it was something that came up in the field. We talked about it and he just offered his services if they were needed, to the capacity that he would be able to do that and to what the town would be open to.
So John Thomas, the question is, if the town elects to undertake this, we have to hire an engineer to do the calculations to make sure it's correct, right?
Yeah, that's why I said that I'll be applying for a grant for it.
So we're willing to undertake this. We don't want to condition, we don't want to add any conditions to this permit where the developer has any, you know, is going to owe us anything relative to this culvert.
I think it's safe to say that the developer is responsible for ensuring all generated stormwater and waters generated on site remain on site, or the volume of water generated is the same as it currently is. And if it changes, obviously that would be non-compliance and we'd have to have another discussion about that, and Claire would need to come in and we'd have to have a conversation about that. But the culvert on town property, I think that's the responsibility of the town, and that's something that I'm talking to the going to be talking to the water department about for submitting for the next cycle for the culvert replacement grant.
Okay, so we're not looking to the developer to contribute anything towards fixing it, changing it, permitting it, or designing it, correct?
That's for the commission to decide. I'm basically.
Right, that's why I'm talking about it.
Yep.
Do we want to condition this? Do we want to add a condition? And what would that condition look like? To what extent do we want them to participate? I'll say it again. The water department can supply the labor, correct? You're going to try to get the grant. So what would we possibly need from the developer? Design time? I don't know. It's just for consideration.
I would say potentially access.
We don't have our own access there?
We do, but we did disturb more of the trail if we tried to get in there. So if they were in the process of developing Lloyd Circle, they would provide us access to that location. It's less disturbance from right before the crossing. If I'm looking at it from perspective for getting a truck and a machine in there.
Okay, that's one thing, access, but again, are we looking for them to contribute in some way?
Yeah, but I don't know if you can include that in the order. I think that has to be.
We would condition it, Julian. We would condition it. It says, you know, prior to closeout, prior to certificate of compliance, however we want to word it, they would do X, Y, and Z. If we're looking for that.
They would provide us the ability to gain access from that location, and obviously we'd have to have a site plan generated, but I think that would probably be the least amount of potential impacts to the woods and also to the nearby resources.
Right, that's just for access. So Again, we're not looking for them to contribute anything else. No engineering, design, nothing to that effect.
No, because for me to go after a grant, I would need to have a separate contractor, and I couldn't use the current applicant or any of their designers.
Well, what if we don't get the grant?
Then we don't get the grant.
Okay, and we go out and solicit bids and undertake this as a town project.
That's another reason why I'm pushing for a conservation fund.
Yeah, okay, just want to be clear.
And if I may, just something I'm thinking on as a lot of this discussion is going on, perhaps from my perspective on behalf of the applicant, it sounds like there are still a lot of things to work out with this concept of removing the culvert and replacing it with the bridge. So that's where I'm a little hesitant to include any sort of special conditions, but we're absolutely open to continuing to work with the town, in the background to see how the applicant could facilitate or help to the best of his capacity in a, separate setting.
Yeah.
We're not leaving town anytime soon.
But I mean, unless it's in the order, who knows? I just had one other quick comment. I noticed on the box culvert design, it said to be designed by a structural. So John Thomas, we just want to probably include a condition that says that the structural will provide those plans for our files. Okay.
Definitely do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That's all I had.
All right, if there are no further questions, it brings us to the question of whether we're at the point with this to close. And I'm gonna, it looks like we do have a couple of questions up here though.
Yeah.
So why don't I deal with that, and then John, maybe you can consider advising me on that. So we have Ellen Turner, or a computer named Ellen Turner, with their hand up. So why don't you go ahead?
Hi, this is Fran Turner, actually, 145 Pine Street.
Okay.
I just wanted to add some perspective to the conversation about the water flow through that 12-inch pipe. I live at 145, so we've got some of the water that flows. I actually wasn't aware of this until fairly recently. That water that flows through the 12-inch pipe that's going to go through the box culvert, ultimately, if I'm correct, ends up at the water area around 148 and then ultimately goes under the road and then by 145 Pine Street where we live. Just for perspective, over the last bunch of years, during the summer, the water gets very low. Yeah, exactly. The water gets very low. And frankly, I hadn't had a chance to kind of get out into the woods around there to understand why it is. It seems like the root cause might be that 12-inch pipe that we're now talking about. I took a walk out there with one of my neighbors a little while ago, and I realized that clearly, if the water flow is through that 12-inch pipe, along across the trail, and then through this property, and ultimately, that sounds like it could well be the root cause of the water getting very low over the course of the summer. And again, what happens is the water on the 148 side gets below the level of, whatever the level of the, I don't know what you call it, but the level of the water allowing it to flow under the road. And then our side, 145, goes down by quite a way once the water stops flowing in. So I guess my comment isn't so much related to whether the applicant should be responsible for this or not, but really to address the Conservation Commission that that this is important to water flow in this area and specifically to us. So I don't know if you were aware of that cause and effect, that this does affect what somebody mentioned earlier as the downflow. And I just wanted to bring that up to be part of the conversation. I'll probably follow up with you, John, on this, but I just wanted to raise this topic.
So I'm going to just, for my own clarification, the direction of water flow in this system is which, is what, Claire?
Thank you for asking. I did want to touch on that. I'm just directing everybody to the graphic that Zenith produced that we included in our last supplemental report, where we do talk about the drainage direction, which was a big question that we went over in the field with Horsley Witten and John Thomas. So what you see before you is generally it's our site, and just note the north arrow here. So north is in this direction, and we have Pine Street on the left side of the plan set. And so here's the pond that I believe Fran Turner was talking about, and our wetland crossing is just at the bottom of the plan set. So the 12-inch culvert is off the plans to the bottom here. And what we determined based on the calculations that Zenith put together and what we saw in the field to confirm that visually is that the drainage areas A and B are generally contributing towards our wetland crossing and towards that 12-inch culvert. So the drainage from the 12-inch culvert actually is not heading towards our site. It's continuing away from our site and continuing to flow into that town-owned water department town. The drainage area that's left here unshaded is generally what is contributing towards that pond just north of Pine Street. So I can definitely understand the concern that you have as far as the water levels in the pond going down. That's definitely a fluctuation of what we're seeing over the years with the droughts that we're getting. But ultimately, somewhere along this line work here is where flow generally heads towards.
Oh, okay. So you're
and
saying
then-
the flow is the opposite direction as to what I'm suggesting here.
Well, there appears to be a watershed line there. Where the
Divide.
flow-
It's called a watershed divide.
Yes.
Right, so everything in the yellow ultimately drains to the wetland system and then heads east towards our wetland crossing.
Oh, okay. So that's actually that's not the root cause of some of the water going down during the summer that we've seen. It sounds like the the water being limited by that not the wetland crossing, but the 12-inch pipe and that flow. Okay, I didn't realize that. Thanks for clarifying that. We do still have that problem. I may reach out to you, John, anyway, just to follow up on that. But thank you for clarifying that. And are you sure about that? That's definitely the direction of the water flow?
Yes, yeah, Zenith ran their calculations, and while we do really trust our engineers, that was what our site evaluation was for with the peer reviewers and with John Thomas, and we were all in agreement that that's really where the water has been draining.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for clarifying that.
Of course.
And we have computer designated Annie Schuster with a hand up.
Yes, it's Annie again from Edgewater Drive, but I just wanted to just note that I just stayed on to listen to this because I know neighbors that live in that area you're talking about. But I'm like, as a taxpayer, super opposed to allowing developers to come in and create new problems that the town is going to have to pay for to fix. You know, that I'm a taxpayer, and why wouldn't I would say you should probably pin that, you know, like
You're
this other woman suggested, to put it on to attach it to this project.
But you're raising a very prickly issue, and that is, first, the issue is you don't necessarily have the right to prevent a landowner from doing what they wish with their land if it's consistent with all of the local regulations. And it's kind of like it's a thorny problem, because you're basically saying, okay, we're going to deny people the opportunity that you've already had a chance to take advantage of, and that becomes an equality and a civil rights issue. And it's certainly not in the Wetlands Protection Act, so we can't do anything other than comment on it. But you've got to start with the legislature if you're going to make that happen. I don't know if that helps.
My position doesn't change. I would still be opposed.
No, I understand. But you know, and I'm sure your position is generated from wanting the best for the town of Norton. It's just that
that's right.
Everybody has to have the same opportunity, and that's, you know, it's a very difficult and very complex discussion when you talk about stopping development. And you know, it's beyond my knowledge base. So I'll put it that way.
No, I'm not saying stopping the development, although I know the folks would like that to happen, but I'm just saying they're talking about just having them participate in the cost to fix it. That's all.
Okay, well, at the very least, that's probably a planning board discussion. So computer named Bob or person named Bob, you have your hand up.
Yep. Hi, Bob Butler, 133 Pine Street. Just to follow up the last meeting, I brought up possibility of like I think it's a bond set up for any issues that might occur later on due to stormwater management. And I wanted to see how do we go about setting that up and who's responsible for that?
So Bob, to get into your question again, it all depends on what the town stance is with taking the roads, or if they're going to be public or private. I don't know what the status of that is. That would be a planning board determination, and whether the highway superintendent, he would need to weigh in on that. But if that does come into fruition, obviously it will have to be addressed through the planning board, through their decision-making process.
What does that have to do with the being public roads or not? If we're talking about, you know, the infiltration basins overflowing or something to that
Right. So in addition to that, whether the town wants to take on ownership of those roadways, they would need to put up a surety bond, because that's what the language states in our local stormwater regulations. So I can't comment on it any further than what I've stated already, because I'm not part of the planning board, nor am I the planning director. So, you know, this project, you know, you can address those concerns and comments to the planning board at their meeting and see if they've taken any sort of stance to that, or maybe Claire or Zenith have addressed that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I did bring it up at the last planning board meeting, but a lot of times I just get some blank stares. So I'll bring it up again next week. Thank you.
Okay.
So in the meantime, are we at a point where we gathered everything we need to gather and close this, or not, John?
I guess, you know, the majority of the project itself was handled through the planning board for stormwater. Is that correct, Claire?
Yes, we are on the planning board meeting next week, and maybe Amy can touch base on that. I wasn't at the last planning board meeting. I was at the previous one, and Janet Bernardo of Horsley Witten, she's been doing the review directly for the stormwater. I believe she said at that point, her comments had been addressed, and there may have been 2 or 3 outstanding items that she just needed to see revised plans to confirm were addressed, and they were sort of like more housekeeping items. So I'm not sure if she submitted a report since these revised plans were produced, which the date is December 13th. So I don't know, Amy, if you have any input as far as if Janet has any outstanding items stormwater related.
I know Janet submitted a letter on the 22nd of December. I've got it open. I'm just going to skim it quickly, but I think that she would, she's confirmed for the comment.
So while Amy's looking at that, so Claire, these plans represent the latest and greatest that are still before the planning board?
Yes, that's correct. And actually, to answer that question a little more thoroughly, and also while Amy's looking through that, Zenith did let me know that they are working with the water, what is it, the Water Commission, or, the Water Supply Board, to get the water line connection approved. And we're kind of in a catch-22 with them, where they won't approve the layout until we have an order of conditions and a permit from planning board in hand. So this is the layout we have currently. I'll just zoom in a little bit, where we have the loop going from Germain Way up to Briggs and then back to the end of Lloyd Circle. And we have this second connection. And what I'm told is that they could provide comments to approve the layout as is, or they could approve the layout and ask us to remove this one extension as a second connection. So it's just something I wanted to bring to your attention. If any revisions were made, it looks like it would be a reduction of alterations that are proximate to non-jurisdictional isolated wetlands. So I wouldn't expect any changes down the road that would significantly change any work footprint in jurisdictional areas.
Okay, so you wouldn't necessarily need to keep this open just till the planning board signs off then?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, you wouldn't need to keep this hearing open just to make sure that there aren't any changes that would
Right. I don't think from a planning board perspective that they might have little comments as far as, well, they might not be little to many people, but comments that aren't as significant to the commission's review, like adding more streetlights, or I think there was a comment of, asking for more trees to be planted. So, things like that might be added to the plans that the planning board finalizes, but I don't recall them having any significant comments that are related to the wetland crossing itself or the replication area or a lot of the items that we've been discussing.
Right. So I guess it just comes down to whether you want to keep it open just to, again, make sure there's nothing that would precipitate a plan change, so we didn't open the public hearing again.
I think we should be in good shape. And of course, the other catch-22 we're having is every time I've been to planning board, they ask, how's conservation feeling about this one?
Okay. Okay.
You can tell them we're ready to close if they're ready to stop asking for things.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
But we just have circumstance.
Did you find anything?
I didn't, Mr. Chairman. I just skimmed through Janet's letter from December 22nd. It sounds like all outstanding items from her stormwater peer review have been addressed, and there's no further comment at this point.
So I think a motion is in order? Maybe?
So the bottom line is, I guess the commission feels comfortable closing this one because it's not like it's never been before planning and things are pretty settled. We're not going to see a change in position of the road, et cetera. So sure, I think we can entertain a motion to close.
All right, I will make a motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1105.
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Lisa and seconded by Tama for closing this public hearing, and roll call vote. We'll start with Ron and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
And then we have Mark and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. This hearing is closed, and John will have a great time producing an order of conditions for next time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I've already started working on it just to keep everybody in the loop.
All right, well, we'll miss seeing you, Claire.
I know, I'll miss you guys. Thank you so much for a wonderful review. And Amy, I appreciate all your work on this. You were great, did a great job with the peer review, and Tom, John, same to you. It was really great to work through all these things with you. Appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you. All right, our next item on the agenda is 0 King Philip Road. So thank you guys for being patient. Things have gone on and on tonight. Who's gonna be speaking? Is it Chris?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental, professional and certified wetland scientist and registered professional soil scientist. Hope you all had a great New Year and holiday. It's good to see you again. Hopefully we can wrap this up this evening. We have made some pretty substantial changes to the plans. John, am I able to share my, let me see if I could you allow me to share my screen so I can pull up the plans? I think it'll be easier for everybody. Okay, thank you. Just want to run through some of the changes we've made. We heard the concerns at the last hearing, and we also receipt of an email from your conservation director, Mr. Thomas, on November 4th. We believe the supplement that was submitted on December 22nd more than adequately addresses those concerns. And I will, here we go. Okay, I'll run through it. So what we provided you in the packet is a floodplain alteration and compensatory storage analysis. And before I say that, sorry, I should, sorry, it's been a long night. The rest of the project team is here. We have attorney Elliot Braze on the call tonight, as well as representatives from Tilton and Associates and the applicant. They're all here to answer any questions you may have. With that being said, with the questions raised about the flood compensatory storage, the applicant engaged Advanced Concepts to take a second look at everything. And they provided a floodplain alteration and compensatory storage analysis, which we included in your set. And what they did was they went through and analyzed the fill for the proposed house, garage, and everything else, and then went and looked at each increment, 70 to 71, 71 to 72, each 1 foot increment, up to elevation 74, which is 1 foot above the flood elevation of 73. This graphic that you can see on your screen here shows the footprint of that analysis. The area in red shows the areas of proposed fill in each grade, and the areas in green shows the proposed cut. And what that provides you is a net gain. So we have each elevation shown here in the table. So each cut and each fill volume taken. So we're proposing overall 221 cubic yards of new storage and for the fill of 85. And at each elevation, you can see we're providing more than we're taking or filling. We also have a nice graphic here so you can all see it visually. And the Advanced Concepts calculations and whatnot were provided with that letter. Furthermore, I think this was a big concern from the commission. The basement was removed. There's no more basement associated with this house. So what they've done now is proposed a 4 foot crawl space. This is FEMA compliant. Crawl spaces are allowed under structures as long as one side is at grade. And what we have done here is the back side, this entire back portion of the crawl space will be at final grade. So we are FEMA compliant with that. And so we're no longer using the house for compensatory storage as was requested. That graphic shows all the areas. We fully comply with it. And this cross section shows the crawl space now instead of a basement. The only adjustment that required, because we adjusted the flood compensatory storage, this area here along the back of the house is the previous limit of work. We are going to remain that as the permanent limit of work. However, we do need to grade into this area back here. This was discussed with Mr. Thomas. He seemed to think that was acceptable. And what we've proposed here is a pretty robust restoration plan with trees and shrubs and seeding along the back. So this area will be restored upon completion and will no longer further be used. So the same limit of work is here, but we had to regrade this to be able to provide the flood compensatory storage that's required. We provided an updated mitigation table. Again, we think it's comparable for the work on the site. And I think we're providing reasonable and appropriate mitigation for the work proposed on the project. With that being said, we believe we are fully compliant with the floodplain regulations, and we've addressed the commission's concerns for this lot. And the team is happy here to answer any questions that you and the commission may have, and looking to close the hearing tonight. Thank you.
Questions from members of the commission? And John, I don't know if you have any comments on this.
I do, but I'll let you all discuss matters first.
I just had a question on that red cross hatching. What does that signify to the rear, to the south?
This area here?
Yes.
This is an area that will not be touched. It will remain in its natural state.
Okay, so actually it's the only part of the entire lot that's going to remain.
No.
Well, besides the wetlands.
For the most part, correct. Right, and then this disturbed area up front is going to be restored. And this area here will not be touched either. We've pulled back an area along the wetland edge here to avoid, this orange line is the revised erosion and sedimentation control line. So we'll be avoiding this area here as well.
So did DEP have any comments on this on their website?
They originally had comments about the flood storage and the way that was being handled. We believe that this revised package completely addresses their questions.
Okay, and I assume you sent them a package?
Tilton Associates sent this package concurrently to DEP when they sent it to the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
So they typically don't comment again, but they have the materials. So.
Right. John Thomas, I don't know if it's worth a call to Zero to see if they had any further questions.
Yeah, I haven't called them, but I can definitely do that if that's something the commission wants. Or the applicant can ask Zero for a comment letter if that's something they want to do too.
DEP typically doesn't comment a second time. Usually, in my experience, if they've had a significant concern that they may appeal something, then they usually reach out to the applicant.
And they haven't reached out to you?
They have not, so we're not concerned with that at this point. We believe this project fully complies with the Wetland Protection Act, and we can proceed.
I'd say that this design is a lot better than what was originally proposed. So, it looks like it meets the standards under their guidelines. Obviously, I'm not an expert when it comes to this kind of stuff, but based on the calculations and running through all the guidelines, it appears that you're using the pre-existing contour that matches to where the upland or the outside where the floodplain meets that location, and then carving back down, which is going to what they recommend. So when it comes to that down the south piece, that's what they recommend. Furthest that you can do so from any sort of proposed development, but this site is somewhat constrained to kind of the area that you can do the work. So this area would be the only applicable place to put that, and you've done so accordingly. So I feel that this project is a comfortable project with in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act and our stormwater management bylaw. In light of this project, there's another project that the applicant is also working on at 75 King Philip that had some issues as well. So this may be something that I should bring to the commission's attention. We did issue a violation for 75 King Philip, which is right next door. Same owner, project. He's rehabilitating a residence there. Across the street, yes. So at 75 King Philip. And the building commissioner has issued a violation as well, notice to the applicant. So there's some sort of compliance issues with the site currently. The applicant has brought in some loom material and has done some exterior work to the property for the foundation. So I've issued a violation letter to them. I'm hoping tonight they can confirm that they're willing to comply with the Wetlands Protection Act and also our local stormwater policy and follow all the procedures. If not, then for instance, I recommend an enforcement order for 75 King Philip.
John, just to clarify, that's a property across the street from this one?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If I can, I just wanted to raise one other issue relative to this project, though, and I raised it in the last few times we talked about this, but I'm still struggling with a couple issues. Number one, the amount of work being done within the 25-foot no disturbance zone. We talked about that a little bit, being the town's policy, and understand the applicant has feelings towards that. And then, specifically, this is a permanent structure that's being built 8.8 feet from the wetlands boundary. I haven't had an opportunity to have a project proposed that close, but to me, that makes me a little bit uneasy, given that this is a wooded lot being replaced by a permanent structure, and again, some grass area 8 feet from the wetlands. So I don't know if the applicant has comments on either of those points, but.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Fernandez, Elliot Bray, attorney for the applicant. First off, Mr. Thomas, when we had met at the field last Friday with 3 planning board members, yourself and Brian, I had mentioned that I was just hoping to get the building inspector's letter so I could give a comprehensive answer, which I've drafted. We're gonna look to comply with your regs. There are some issues that we're trying to research right now. So 75, I'd like to put aside for a second. I could direct to Mr. Fernandez's question, if I may. So I immensely respect your question. Having listened tonight, it was a very interesting hearing, a lot of previous hearings, because the chairman said on one occasion, I think you got to go to the state legislature to solve that problem. I spent over the weekend kind of just looking at some law review articles and mass environmental law and MCLE, et cetera, and, I can quote a particular section in MCLE 2021 review. It says, in reviewing the document, which states in part, although urban sprawl is widely recognized as a problem in Massachusetts, the legislature has yet amended the statutes that inhibit the ability of localities to plan comprehensively to accommodate growth. And as the chairman had said, and I'm not trying to be difficult with the board, my job for 35 years is to try to help someone get something that I think they're entitled to. If there was a wetland bylaw, I would have said to Mr. Tim Infante a long time ago, this is the wrong road to go down. There is no wetland bylaw. And in fact, I looked at your website tonight, and it specifically states on your website, the town of Norton does not have a wetland protection bylaw, but does have policies, which we respect. And as Chris has said, and I think John has confirmed, we have done everything we can in this constrained site to try to make it work. We meet the compensatory storage. And I'm not apologetic, but I feel badly that you're frustrated with the 25-foot no touch. But because it is a pre-existing non-conforming lot.
If I may, Mr. Brace, if I may, with all the respect you haven't, I mean, the clear answer would be to reshape the size of the house.
No question about the size, but what I was getting at was, because we are a pre-existing non-conforming lot and we meet the criteria, we punch those 4 boxes, we don't have common ownership, we have 5,000 square feet, we have 50 feet of frontage. The policy is not something that would prohibit us as compared to a bylaw. And I'm not looking to fight with you. I'm not looking to fight with anyone tonight. That's just the legal position that I'm taking. It's a legal position that I've utilized for many, many years. I think, with all due respect, what might be a good idea, Chris and I spoke today, maybe this would be a good idea to have, quote unquote, a legal peer review and have town council look at it so that they can say, hey, this guy's nuts, or this guy's got something that's legitimate. Because I'm not looking to argue with anyone. I'm really not.
I'd like to address that if I may. Yeah, you're probably correct. We don't have a legal basis for stopping you, and the applicant has a legal basis for putting this here. But I've served on this commission for more than 40 years, and I am proud to say, on behalf of the commission and all those that have served before, during those 40 years, we have had essentially no flooding problems of any project that we have approved. There was one occasion in which there was a detention basin that was full to the brim during an extraordinary rain event. But what we're looking at here, I am saying, I am concerned about the future owner of this house as to whether they're going to regret ever having bought it. And that's where my opinion is coming from. You can tell me, yeah, I have no legal basis for stopping you, but I am concerned about whoever owns this. And you may not be familiar with the exact circumstance of how the Wetland Protection Act came about, but we have, for example, developments that were completed just before the Wetland Protection Act came into force in this town, where wetlands were filled in, houses were put in, and guess what? Come springtime, water erupts out of their garages, because that's where the water goes, even if you fill in the wetlands. So that's the protection of homeowner value that was behind the logic of creating the Wetland Protection Act. So yes, okay, we'll accept your legal opinion, but this is my concerns that don't come from the legality. My concern comes from when we have a really high rain event, is the owner of this house in the future going to say, why did I ever buy this place? And you can say, well, buyer beware. Fine, whatever.
Sir, I wouldn't say buyer beware. I do respect that. And I think in deference to yourself and the board, that is why the basement was abandoned. That's why it went to a crawl space. And as Chris had articulated, we meet the requirement. So we attempted to address your concern. It certainly will be no storage, no nothing. That was addressed, and I trust that was sufficient, but it sounds like it may not have been for you, which I respect.
Well, I just am not good at predicting the future, and I think this is about as close to pushing it to the limits that I've ever seen a proposal to do here. And that's why I've been very negatively impressed by this proposal. But yeah, I'll grant you, you can do it.
John, not John, Mark, the bottom line is if we had a bylaw, we would have more teeth, we'd have more skin in the game, and we would be able to deny this, change the size of it, do whatever. But we don't have the luxury of bylaw. It's only a policy.
I get that. And again, I'm not trying to say that I'm not an attorney, but I know that our policy doesn't carry the same weight as a bylaw or a regulation or whatever, right? But my belief, and correct me if I'm wrong for those who've been on the committee and maybe were involved even if with the drafting of the policy, is that the policy is based on the wetland science, that this commission has historically taken the stance that any activity whatsoever within 25 feet, per the science, any activity within 25 feet of wetlands is so likely to impact wetlands that we generally don't approve those kinds of projects. Is that fair to say?
It is, but this is a different circumstance with a non-conforming lot that somebody bought, that somebody has the right to build on. I mean, that's how I view this. I mean, could the house be smaller? Yes. But where's it going to get us if we deny this and it goes to DEP? DEP is most likely going to rubber stamp it.
May I add something that might, we understand your concerns with the 25-foot, you know, and we do believe DEP would approve this, but we want to work with this commission. That's why we've been here for the past 4 to 5 months, trying to work with you to revise the plans and address your concerns. You know, but this lot, because it was pre-existing and non-conforming, we cannot avoid the 25-foot. The summary table we provided you, the work in the 25-foot no disturb zone on the site is just under 8,700 square feet. That includes the building, the driveway, the gravel portion, the yard, seating, loaming, the utility corridor. We're proposing just under 7 square feet under 7,000 square feet, 6,993 square feet of restoration of the 25-foot. That includes areas that were disturbing that are temporarily being disturbed, like along the back portion of the site. We're also restoring the 25-foot along the front of the road. So we're impacting 8,700, but we're restoring 7,000. So when you look at it that way, I don't think it's as egregious as it sounds because of this large house. We are close to the wetland, you know, and we did look at previous iterations. We had a larger house that was 1 foot from the wetland, and we just didn't feel comfortable coming in with that. So we you know, and we're also preserving 3,300 square feet of the 25-foot no disturb zone that won't be touched, you know, in the future. So we do feel that we have a fairly close, almost a 1-to-1 balance of the impact to the restoration here. It's not quite 1-to-1, but we are cognizant of your 25-foot. We've been trying to respect it to the extent we can, knowing the legality behind it. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, we've done a good job to restore almost what we're impacting here. And, you know, that's why we're looking for some consideration with this board to seek an approval here and move forward with the project.
All right, any further questions or comments? I think we could certainly open it up to the audience. And if there are none, I mean, it's my sense that all of the issues have been roasted over multiple times and that we're ready to close unless we have anything more to say.
The only comment I had is, and I'm going to refer to John Thomas, is if we should have a chat with DEP to see if they're satisfied. Because I personally think those comments needs to be closed out like any other set of professional comments.
Okay. I didn't, you were a little, I didn't get the clarity of this statement. Things were a little fuzzy. Could you just repeat that?
Sure. I think we need to get DEP's sign off on this, that they're okay with this design. They had a number of comments on the initial design. The applicant said they've addressed them, but I would like to hear from DEP that they are satisfied and that the flood storage meets the performance standards. They had significant comments on the first application. So it's not, we need closure. We need closure from DEP, and I think it's worth a call to them.
Would the applicant grant us a continuation to allow us to clarify these issues?
Mr. Chairman, 2 points on that before the applicant speaks. One, most of DEP's comments were raised by Mr. Thomas about the floodplain, and he seems satisfied that we've addressed it. Secondly, DEP doesn't commonly do this. They're not in the practice of doing several iterations, as I noted before. They may not be willing to do that. We don't know their timelines. We don't know if they'll do it within 21 days. You know, we feel satisfied to take the risk that if DEP has an issue, then they can appeal it. We aren't concerned that they're going to do that here because we do believe we've addressed it. They've had the information, but it isn't common practice for DEP to comment multiple times on a review. And I'm not certain.
I understand that. I understand that. I'm in this business. I understand they don't go after it a couple times, but in this instance, because they had significant comments about it, I would ask that they weigh in on it. I don't know how you feel about this, John Thomas. I will defer to you.
Thank you. I will, I mean, I can reach out to DEP and see if they have any questions pertaining to this.
Well, all right, let's put it this way. We can close. If DEP still has concerns, you'll see them in the order.
So the DEP didn't have significant comments. Just to clarify, they literally had one comment stating compensatory storage under the proposed garage may not be in compliance with 310 CMR 10.57.
Okay.
Conservation Commission may also wish to ask for clarification on the site plan where flood storage is being lost and where it's being replaced. I think Mr. Thomas actually raised more pertinent questions than they did, and we've addressed them. We've removed the garage, so that issue's moot, and we've provided a plan showing where everything is.
Okay, so if I might, we could close, and again, John Thomas, I would ask you to call DEP just to check, and if they have issues, they will put it in the order. That's all. That's my compromise. That's what I'm sticking to.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like we're ready for an order to close. A motion to close, that is.
I will make the motion to close the public hearing for DEP file 250-1115.
Motion made by Lisa. I think that was a Dan Pearson that seconded that. So roll call vote beginning with Tama and Ron.
Aye.
Aye.
And then Dan and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So we'll be generating a certificate, an order of conditions for you guys, and we'll be voting on it next time. Very good.
As it pertains to 75 King Philip, priorities right now, put some silt stoppage or silt sacks in that catch basin out front. Additionally, you're gonna have to put some stabilization on that topsoil that's there because it's exposed and you have a cease and desist. So I'm giving you authority to make those changes as of right now to the exterior. But besides that, we can discuss these matters offline. That won't result in an enforcement order, I'm hoping.
Consider it done, Thomas.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is file number 250-1121. Notice of intent for 70 and 72 and 78 East Main Street, the new town hall site. They have requested a continuance until January 23rd, looking for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion made by Lisa, seconded by Dan. No, Dan got that one. He made a noise. We're gonna call that a motion. So Lisa and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mark and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
And Ron?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So town hall is next time. Wow. Never ending agenda here. Next item is file number, a notice of intent, file number 250-1114, 306-308 East Main Street. I know there's some people involved with that. Ron, who is the
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Mark Arnold with Goddard Consulting. We're the wetlands consultants who filed the notice of intent. On this call is with me Deshang Wang from Clearwater Engineering. I believe some of the other members of the team, Larry Rubin and Gary Thomas, are also on the call. Should there be any questions? Just to give the commission a quick update on where we stand, we were waiting for peer review from the stormwater. We received a third letter from the peer reviewer on December 23rd, And from reading that letter, there are no outstanding issues with regards to compliance with the stormwater standards. There were some discussion about some conditions, which I'm sure John will discuss with the commission. And again, just to remind the commission, this is in addition to a warehouse. We have no work within 30 to 35 feet of the wetlands. We have an infiltration basin that controls all stormwater. Nothing leaves, it discharges from the site. Everything gets infiltrated into that system. And we do have revised plans to the board that the peer review just reviewed. That letter was issued on December 23rd. And I'm glad to share the plans or any other documents which you want to see. But that's really a quick recap of where we stood. We did have a meeting early on with the commission, and there weren't any preliminary issues with the proposed project within the buffer zone. At the time, John did ask us to put together a table of what work was happening in each section of the buffer zone, and we did that. But there were no outstanding questions from the commission except for peer review.
Mark, can you just go over that comment that Lisa had with that catch basin or that stormwater facility that wasn't not being attenuated? Can you just address that? I believe Janet had that in her memo.
Yeah, so what we have proposed to do is to take an existing catch basin. I'll pull up the plans just so the commission can see this. What we're going to do is we're taking an existing catch basin that's right here, and it discharges directly to the wetlands right here. So what we've decided to do is we're gonna sever this pipe here. We're going to run it this direction into the storm scepter. So that way it gets pre-treatment before it discharges. So rather than installing another unit, digging up in the parking lot in this area here to put a large unit in the ground, we're just going to use an existing unit which has the capacity to treat both of these catch basins. That way everything goes here, and you have with one discharge point versus two. So they're both in the same general area. So from a stormwater standpoint, you're getting a lot better treatment than you were under existing conditions. And again, this area also is getting a smaller contribution area because there's actually less asphalt reaching this catch basin, I should say, from the proposed project.
All right, thank you very much for addressing that.
So my understanding from the peer reviewer and reading through their memo is that it appears to me that most of the stormwater concerns for the project have been addressed, if not all. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, all of it addressed. There were some comments about conditions, which usually every peer review does, but there's nothing that was plans need to be made, stormwater calculation need to be updated. There was nothing, everything was signed off in regards to compliance. It was just some suggestions that are applicable to the commission.
So per the peer reviewer's recommendations with the conditions, obviously, that could be conditioned in an order of conditions. It appears that the stormwater peer reviewer was comfortable with the project as a whole. Is that correct?
Correct. So yeah, this is the letter here on December 23rd again. No further comment here.
Right. We don't need to go through all of them.
I just so the commission, I just want to make sure the commission may have forgot. So again, there was no further comment. So here's a special condition about the O&M. So John, you did see that signed O&M. This is an operation and maintenance plan that encompasses the entire property as one document signed by the owner, and to be implemented by his designee. They're already aware of that, and that was
Horsley Witten Group did review that O&M, and they were comfortable with the O&M as being proposed.
Exactly, and that was the main concern, main comment about the commission was that O&M, which has been reviewed and signed by the applicant, or reviewed by peer review and signed by the applicant.
So as it pertains to stormwater, I'm of the opinion that all these matters have been addressed.
Yeah, if I may, I couldn't show my John. So there's one last email we received yesterday from Jenny to Megan. So we did send out the standalone operation and maintenance plan, and she reviewed it. She's okay with it. And the applicant, Larry, is also on this meeting. So he received it, he signed this, and they have the standalone O&M plan, which will be implemented for both during the construction as well as post the construction phase.
So as it pertains to our well, as it pertains to the stormwater handbook and the local stormwater management bylaw, it seems that this project meets all that criteria.
Yes.
Therefore, I guess the concerns for the commission is that if there's any other outstanding environmental Wetland Protection Act concerns, which I don't see any as it pertains to my assessment or review, but if the commission has any questions or anything else further to discuss, I think they can do so.
All right, that opens it up to questions from the commission. And if we don't have any questions from members of the audience, and if if we don't have any, I heard a recommendation for a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close. What file number is this?
This would be file number DEP 250-1114.
Yes.
And a motion made by Tama, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote. We're looking at Lisa and Ron.
Aye.
And Tama and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan has got to be here somewhere.
Aye.
There we go. All right, and I'll throw in an aye. So thank you, guys. We'll be doing an order of conditions next time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next item is 0 East Hodges Street, file number 250-1113. They requested a continuance until January 23rd. Who wants to move that one?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Dan. Roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Ron.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. That motion carries. We are now up to 0 Hill Street. And I'm assuming we're getting close to gathering everything we need. Who's our representative here? Mike?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Mike Dryden, Senior Project Manager, Allen Engineering. So we do hope, Mr. Chairman, that you're correct. We did receive a third round of peer review comments from Mr. Chesia. That was dated December 30th. Our office received that on January 3rd. So clearly not enough time to revise plans and get them back to the peer reviewer for this meeting. But the reason I sat around this evening, I just wanted to very quickly speak with the commission and share a few thoughts on the record regarding the peer review. And I want to be as professional and polite as I possibly can in doing so. But I feel compelled to share a few thoughts with the commission. And despite what I'm sure are very good intentions from Mr. Chesia of Chesia Consulting, I believe at this point that the level of scrutiny that this project has been put under is far beyond the normal standard of care in this industry. And the reason I say that is because we work with dozens of peer reviewers in the Commonwealth all the time on a daily basis. And I've never had such difficulty in trying to reconcile comments. I think to date we've worked diligently and professionally with Mr. Chesia. We've been at this for 5 months, and that's not entirely Mr. Chesia's fault, but we've been at this since mid-July. I believe Mr. Chesia is very focused on matters that have a de minimis effect on the design or are inconsequential to the protection of the resource areas. I think we've been patient to date, and I just want to, again, tell the commission that we feel that this is above and beyond, but what we are going to do is revise the plans one final time. We're going to put our best foot forward to address finally a few outstanding comments. I do not intend to regurgitate 16 pages of text that's been brought forth over and over. What I'm prepared to do is pare the letter down to the last, 6 or 8 items, just include text to address those items so that we can all move forward. And what I'm also wondering is, since I believe we're close, is if the commission can start working toward drafting an order for this project, because we are eager to close this out at this point in time. So I mean no disrespect to Mr. Chesia. I'm sure his intentions are very well, but I believe we have split hairs over again. So there are some minor exceptions, and I'm not saying that everything that Mr. Chesia has put forth is not worth addressing. There are a few minor things that we will address, but in terms of opinion,
all right,
our
so
plans are put together.
I think
we're going to move past that. So I appreciate.
Yeah, I think you made your point clearly. So John, I hope you take criticism well. Do you have anything to say, or I think all of us will be happy if we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the way I write my letters, I build off prior letters so they end up, and I cover every item, and if it complies, I say that. So I think this project at this point boils down to just a few things, and some of them are very simply fixed, and some of them we might just disagree on, and the commission can decide. I, treat everyone the same on all the letters I've done for the last, 30 something years. And it's up to the commission if you like it or don't, I guess, because you don't have to hire me if you don't like the way I do it, but and that's fine. But so in this particular project, I think there's just a few things. There's oil grit separators. They're supposed to be offline. It's not a big issue to design it that way. That wasn't done that way. That needs to be corrected.
Agreed.
There's testing. I guess the commission has okayed that testing can happen after the fact, but in my case, I just want to point out that if you find they have one system that's exactly 2 feet of separation, the nearest test pit is 60 feet away, down gradient. And my experience has been that that's a very risky proposition, that when you go test it, if it's higher, you don't comply and you got to come back again. It's not something that I think, you can decide however you like, but I would recommend that they do testing ahead of time, because that just seems like a very risky thing. Many a time I've been out and the tests aren't what people think they were going to be. So the next one is a very simple modeling thing about the way they model the outlet. And the simple answer is they used an orifice instead of a culvert. The culvert's slower. All you'd have to do is put a bigger pipe and have an opening the size of the orifice and it would work. But the plans and the calcs have to match. And I am a stickler for that, because if it doesn't work and there's a problem down the road, it's not going to be because I missed it. So I am careful. I listened to the whole meeting tonight too, and I have to say that the projects I've worked on, unless something was done wrong during the construction or whatever, I haven't had flooding problems on the projects I've reviewed either. That's important to me. Mounting calculations, I understand their response to that, but the basis for mounting calculations, in my opinion, I just wanted for the commission's edification, when you have less than 4 feet of separation and you're using the systems for control of runoff rates, you do mounding also to determine whether the mound is going to impact the system during a bigger storm, because if the mound gets into the bottom of the system, the infiltration rate goes down. I've worked with groundwater modelers that are experts in the field, PhD people on many projects recently, and this is a factor that comes into play. Would it make a big difference in a project like this? It's a 100-year storm. It's a rare event, but that's what's required. So that's what I put in my letters. And I don't think they got the modeling right. I've talked to the guy that actually developed the program that was used for some of the factors. And those factors, to me, I think are important to have, because so many people do mounding incorrectly and don't understand it. And I think it's important to get it right. Is it going to have a huge impact if it's not right? I mean, the 100-year storm is very rare. Maybe it doesn't make that much difference, but I always take the conservative approach because I represent the town. What's the risk? I don't want to take the risk. And then the last comment would be relative to the stormwater pollution plants. They got a site that's basically just barely under an acre, so it doesn't require the SWIP, but you still should have a plan and a more detailed plan, because if you read the checklist in the stormwater report, you still need to provide the data listed in the report, in the checklist. And so that's what I did in my letters. I outlined what those requirements were. So that, I mean, I work for the commission and I do take a conservative approach. I won't deny that because I don't want to have the commission at risk.
That's exactly why we hire you over and over again, Mr. Chesia, because we appreciate that level of detail.
Thank you.
And as do I. Just one final point. I certainly do appreciate his attention to detail. And again, I don't know disrespecting Mr. Chesia, but everything you said, what you have to keep in context is we have a gravel site that literally almost has zero flow leaving the site. So all of these little things we're talking about are just completely inconsequential. So without belaboring this anymore, we're going to put forth our best foot here. We're going to try to satisfy the remaining comments, and let's hope that we can all move forward. We stand behind our design as well, and again, it's just in everybody's best interest to put this behind us.
All right, so what I'm hearing is potentially this can be resolved in the time before the next meeting. Perhaps John can be the referee and we can close and perhaps hopefully act on an order of conditions.
So just so everyone's aware, we have to close a meeting next meeting and then issue an order of conditions that same day. So in anticipation of this potentially coming to closure in 2 weeks, I will draft up a draft order and I will talk with Mike and John on potential conditions to be adhered to or embedded within that in that time frame as well. So that way we can kind of get a draft ready for the commission in anticipation of potential closure and Mike's ability to address all of John's concerns.
So are you saying that the time frame between the 23rd and the 13th is greater than 21 days? I mean, I haven't. Why do we have to close an
Megan,
issue?
confirm me on that one.
Well, I can open up.
Yeah, it's a month,
It's a month.
roughly, yeah.
But I'm having on my meeting. Well, let's see. I may be looking at the wrong thing, but I thought we're. But our next meeting is the 23rd of January, and then on my agenda it says the meeting after that is the 13th of February.
Yeah.
So
why is it, where's this extra time coming in? I'm not
Is
seeing
it not greater than 21 days between the 23rd and the 13th?
well, that's what I was just about to look at the calendar. At any rate, it's kind of moot because I think the plan is that with this particular project, we can follow that plan of ironing it out and closing and then issuing the order next time around.
Yeah, it's greater than 21 days.
It's exactly 21 days. So that shouldn't even be an issue. But all right. But so, Michael, will you grant us permission to continue to the 23rd, and then we will. No, wait a minute. What are we saying? Today is the 9th. We're talking about going from now to the 23rd, which is 2 weeks.
Yeah, we would need to continue until the 23rd, but I'm saying on the 23rd, we would need to issue and close and issue an order of conditions to meet the 21 day. Because if we can't close on the 23rd, because I can't issue something. We can't close any hearings on the 23rd.
So Michael's gonna get everything before the 23rd, and we're gonna close and issue that night, right?
I'm
that
trying
what
to
Aaron-
get
is that what
material
Aaron-
to Jesse immediately so that he has some time to absorb this. I don't want to put him.
All right, all right. So for the moment, we just need a motion to continue.
Yeah.
Till the 23rd.
Oh,
Second.
All right. Dan makes a motion, Lisa seconds to continue this hearing. Roll call vote, Lisa and Ron, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Tama and Mark
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan,
aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. So thank you, John and Michael, and we will, if everything is all resolved, we may not have to see either of you next time. We may just close, etc.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now on item G, file number 250-1118, notice of intent, 9 Washburn Street. What was outstanding with this? I'm not sure where we're seeing this.
So because of the holiday and everything, we couldn't close the meeting because the 21 days.
Okay.
So as part of
now
that, we informed them that they wouldn't have to be at the next meeting, but we would close and issue the order conditions for 9 Washburn Street on this meeting.
So it sounds like we can now entertain a motion to close.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion made by Dan, seconded by Tama. Roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark and Tama.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. It looks like Ron is temporarily away from his machine, so I think we have a quorum though. I mean, yeah, we have a quorum voting on that one. So the motion carries. The hearing for file number 250-1118 is closed. So our next item of business is is it going to be a full certificate of compliance for 148 North Washington?
It will be, yes.
And everything is in order?
Everything's in order. I just have to go drop off the placards to the posts that the applicant put in today.
Okay.
Make a motion to issue a full, right? Full COC for file number 250-1049.
Second.
And we have a motion made by Lisa, a second by Tama for a full COC for 148 North Washington Street. Roll call vote beginning with Lisa and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. That motion carries. That I think brings us to the order of conditions for 9 Washburn Drive. I reviewed these. I don't see anything that I would change. Any other comments on them?
I didn't see anything.
So Ron, I don't know if you can hear, but we're on the order of conditions for 9 Washburn Drive. I don't know if you have any comments. If not, I think we're at the point where we can consider a motion to accept the draft.
So moved.
All right, we got a motion on the table and we need a second.
Second.
We have a motion made by Ron, seconded by Tama to accept the order of conditions for 9 Washburn Drive as submitted. Roll call vote beginning with Lisa and Ron.
Aye.
And Tama and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. Next item is draft minutes. I tell you, this is for Monday, December 12th. This one is pretty thick. I don't want to even think about how tonight's meeting is going to be. Any comments on that one, Megan?
I don't want to talk about it right now.
I had a couple comments. Megan, page 7.
Okay.
Okay. Probably halfway done. They have done perk testing. So perk testing is short, it's PERC for percolation. And then, let's see, Lisa, so the last 2 sentences, they will trigger, it shouldn't say NEPA. It should say, it was probably, I don't know what it was, but they will trigger, just take out NEPA. It should have been the need for a SWIP.
Okay.
Under the CGP, not CPG, so CGP. And there was one other reference to a storm scepter as a scepter, like a sword scepter.
Okay.
As opposed to a storm scepter. So those are the only things I caught.
Okay, I'll fix those.
Okay. Other than that, I thought they did great, and I would make a motion to approve those as discussed.
Megan, just a small thing, page 12, you have 2 thes, and about the 5th sentence down, you'll see it when you go back.
Okay, I'll fix that.
Yeah, I think at that point in the meeting, probably many people were repeating words.
Probably.
You can fix it.
I'll second.
All right. We had a motion made by, I believe it was Lisa, seconded by Tama, to accept the minutes of December 12th as submitted, as amended, that is. So roll call vote starting with Lisa and Ron. And Tama and Mark.
Aye.
Aye. And Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. Report from staff, etc.
I mean, obviously, we know about 75 King Philip, so that was a violation notice I sent out that I brought to the attention of the commission at tonight's meeting. I'll be going away on vacation February 2nd to the 9th. I'm going to Turks and Caicos, so should be fun for me. And Megan will be on maternity leave from April to July 6th. April, what's the first day, Megan?
The 13th.
13th, yes. So if anyone wants to volunteer to do meeting minutes, please let me know.
Oh, I guess
Let's see it all the way.
Dan, I might comment on them too, so just be careful.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a comment really to Lisa, and that is I'm unfortunately dealing with some significant health issues at the moment, so you may need to step in as chair as needed.
Okay.
Or whoever else wants to do it. But I'm going to be hopeful that, yes, I will be okay and that I will be able to keep doing the meetings. But right now, it's one of those things, if I were in Ukraine, I would say you can't really know what's going to happen today, tomorrow, or whatever. So we're going to do it one day at a time. So anyway, I think we're ready to consider adjourning unless, are there more items we need to talk about?
I mean, the only other item is that Carrie Schneider has resigned. We're going to need a new bill payroll signer. So please raise your hand if you want to be that person.
When does it have to be done, John? I mean, I'm typically off on Fridays, but
Megan?
Typically once a week, they ask for it Thursdays. But I mean, if I hold off on it till Friday and give it to them Monday, it's not a big deal.
All right, unless somebody else can do it Thursday.
Dan, you're already a signer. You're already a signer.
I guess I'm
You just
already,
need a backup.
Oh, okay, so it's just when Dan can't make it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. All right, I'll do it.
basically, you have nothing to worry about, Lisa.
Okay.
I have the lamest life on the planet, so,
He has the most fortuitous life. He has lots of free time.
All right, well,
Also,
sign me up